people to confirm. I want other people to confirm if they can as well hear me. Oh, Kwasu Jessica, good morning. Oh, Zoom user, good morning, sir. Thank you. Good morning. Yes, good morning. Good morning. All right. It means that everyone can hear me. It means that everybody can hear me from wherever they are. Awesome. Awesome. I also want to confirm there is something displayed on my screen. Can everybody see my screen as well? I want to confirm if everyone can see my screen as well. So we don't. Oh, great, great, great. Thank you. Okay, it means we can all see my screen. It means we can all see my screen and we can all hear me. We need to test all of those, how Nigerian network can be at times. It can be so funny, but we trust that we'll have a good network today. We trust that we'll have a good network today. So we can all see my screen and we can all hear me loud and clear. Right. So welcome to class today again. It's the second day of November. And I want to seize this opportunity to say Happy New Month to every one of us. Happy New Month. It's November. Happy New Month to every one of us. Good morning and welcome to class. All right, so I am trying to see if, okay, people are joining in already. We have 21. Other people are still joining in, so I want the class to record a good number of people, then we start up from there. I don't want anyone to miss out of anything that we'll be doing today, starting from the announcements down to introducing the lecturer, down to the lecturing moment and all of those. I personally do not desire that anyone miss out of anything we'll be doing today. So I want other people to join in the call. Maybe we should just do a 5 minutes max for everybody so that we can all have a class that is full. So we can have a class that is full. So 5 minutes, let's kindly hold on the call for 5 minutes. So others can join and I'll quickly roll out the announcement. Afterwards, the lecturer for today take over. So kindly stay on the call for the next 5 minutes so that you can have others on the call. For other people to join, we're trying to wait for other people to join before we move further. So for those that just joined, good morning to us all. Good morning, good morning. Good morning to every one of us, wherever we are right now. Good morning. I believe we can all hear me loud and clear, and we can all see what is displayed on my screen. We want to start already. In the course of the class, other people will join us. But we have a good number of people. We have a good number of people that can start already, that we can start with already. Okay. So let me quickly roll out the announcement before I introduce the lecturer for the day. So let me quickly roll out the announcement before introducing the lecturer for today. I believe we can all see my screen, please. Let me not assume. Can we all see my screen? Okay. 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 Great. I have I have a witness. Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. So we can all see my screen then. All right, let me quickly roll out the announcement. Afterwards, I will introduce the lecturer for today. So, of course, my screen is displaying Transformation College of Business and Technology welcomes you to CompTIA Tech class again for today. So this is another class again for today. So we welcome you all to CompTIA Tech Plus class. We welcome you all to CompTIA Tech Plus class. You know, we've started this class for about some Saturdays ago, and today would not be the last Saturday we'll be having this class, definitely. So we still have other classes after today, right? But we've started since some Saturdays ago. And believe me, we've learned a lot. A lot has been learned. I personally have learned a lot, right? And I'm still going to learn today. So there's a lot that needs to be learned today. There's a lot that needs to be learned today. So I want to believe every one of us here, we are here with our writing materials. Yes, despite the fact that the slides will be shared with us and all of those, but then there are some things we also get in class that we can capture and design it in our own way, in our head, in our books and all of those. So I want to employ us all to be with our jotting materials, our writing materials, our recording materials, whatever things we want to use at all, because I believe this class will be practical and interactive enough to carry every one of us along. So we welcome you to CompTIA Tech Plus class this Saturday again from all of us at Transformation College. All right, so I'm going to move to the next thing on my slide. I'm going to move to the next thing. Okay, so the next thing on my slide is this. Of course, this is the whole overview of what the program we're running looks like, right? The CompTIA Tech Plus classes, and then we can all see the Saturdays that we have the classes and all of those. So this will be ending by 30th of November. That's in another 3 to 4 weeks. Let's say 4 weeks from now, because we have 5 Saturdays in November, and today is just one of it. So after today, we still have about 4 classes for this CompTIA Tech Plus. So I want us all to maximize this opportunity, take advantage of it. Take advantage of this opportunity, rather. Pardon my words. So this is it, and I believe we have all seen this on the WhatsApp community that was created. It has been shared over time, so I know many of us are conversant with this, right? So there's no much time to be used on this. So on to the next thing here. Right, so I'm going to read this as it is stated. If you are here in class today, excluding our NID students, and you have not joined the WhatsApp community for CompTIA Tech Plus, you still have the opportunity to do so. Kindly click on the link to join the group. However, right, I'll be sharing the link in the chat room as well. So in case, for as many of us that are not, or that have not been part of the WhatsApp community that was created for CompTIA Tech Plus, there is a WhatsApp community created for that. So for as many of us that have not been part of the community, I would want us to join the class. I would want us to join the WhatsApp community today. So the link will be shared in the chat room as the class will be going on. The link will be shared so that we can all click on the link to join in the community. So there's still an opportunity to do that, right? So next thing is our registration fee. So please pay up your registration fees. For as many of us that have not paid our registration fee, for Nigerians or those in Nigeria, it is 5,000 Nigerian currency, 5,000 naira. Nigerian currency, 5,000. So please, let's pay up. And then for the Ghanaians, for those in Ghana, it is 53 Ghanaian currency. 53 Ghanaian currency. Let's kindly pay up. And then for those who are in Cameroon, that's the Cameroonian. So it is 2,000 Cameroon currency. Let us kindly pay up. And then once we have finished making payment, and once we have fully made payment, let's not forget to send our proof of payment to the email that is displayed already on the screen. There's an email on the screen. Let's kindly send a proof of payment to that mail. And then there's this for students in Ghana, right? And every student in Ghana, we are to pay to the account that is displayed on the screen. Training Heights Limited, and then the account number and the account name, Zenith Bank Ghana, East Legon. So please let us take note of that. Let's kindly pay up our registration fee, because one of the disadvantage of this is the fact that we might not be admitted into class or into the next class. So please, let's kindly pay up our registration fee. Very important. And then once again, I want to say this: Transformation College of Business and Technology welcomes you to yet another class of CompTIA Tech Plus. And I want us all to welcome ourselves in the chat room. Let's welcome ourselves with a big round of applause. We've journeyed this far, and then we're still here today. Come on, can we welcome ourselves with a big round of applause to yet another class? I want to introduce a lecturer now, but let's welcome ourselves. Let's welcome ourselves. It's necessary. It is necessary. All right, great. Thank you. Let's welcome ourselves. Okay, so without wasting much of our time, I want to welcome to class. Oh, kindly give me a minute, please. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. I want to welcome the lecturer into class, right? But I just noticed the lecturer would need to be made a co-host, so that he stepped out of class a moment ago and then he came back. So all right, so I want us to welcome to class the lecturer for today, in the person of Damilare Omoshebi. Can we give a big round of applause to our lecturer for today as we welcome him to class? Come on, let's jam our hands together for our lecturer for today as we welcome him into class. Damilare Omoshebi, very well. Thank you. Thank you for welcoming in. Damilare, over to you. Over to you.
All right.
Damilare.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. And everyone else, thank you very much. I hope we are all enjoying these classes that we're having on CompTIA, because CompTIA has a whole lot of resources out there for us to learn from. And I'm sure most of us are going to make use of this knowledge in the outside world. It's not just going to be a knowledge that we just acquire without making use of it out there. So once again, thank you very much for the warm welcome, and everyone, I hope we have a very interesting and highly conversational class today. Thank you so much, everyone. So without no further ado, till it's time for us to go straight to the conversation for today. All right, maybe I can share my screen. Sorry, can we see my screen, please?
Yes, yes, your screen is up. We can see.
Okay, okay, that's perfect. So today we are going to be diving into, we are touching about 4 different areas, but then it's just a kind of fundamental knowledge with regards to those 4 different areas. And one of them is understanding databases. Understanding databases. The next one is exploring connection types and features. Then another one, understanding, excuse me, understanding network connectivity essentials. And the last one is setting up a small wireless network, where probably we are going to be simulating on how we want to set up a wireless network, and we'll see exactly how it can be done. Truth of the matter is, most of us in our individual space might have done this on our own, but then we want a scenario where almost everybody have an idea of what wireless network is, of what databases is, or how you can do certain connections within your networking devices, as the case may be. So the first one we're dealing with, as I said, is the, understanding database. And so before I go forward now, I want to ask, what exact, can anyone just enlighten us on whatever you're understanding about databases? What do you understand about the concepts behind database? Anyone want to help us out? I'm sorry, I would like an interactive class. So I wouldn't like a scenario where I'm the only one speaking, or I'll be hearing myself alone throughout the class. So I want a scenario where we can talk and have a conversation on the subject matter. So anyone at all, just tell us exactly what you understand by database, or whenever the term database rings in your head, what do you think they are, they are talking about? Anyone? Should I call names? Okay, can we put it on the chat? Can we put it on the chat so we see exactly what database is all about, so we can learn from each other. So this is more like a learning environment where you learn, I learn. So please kindly put it on the charts. I will be expecting to see from us. Yeah. So when we talk about database, let's talk about you know,
Okay, so
it's
Damilare, you have responses on the chat already.
oh, that's interesting. Wow, wow, wow. This is good. All right. All right. Tammy said an organized collection of data or information. All right. Michael, database is storing data. Yeah. Naomi, databases are a collection of structured information that can be easily accessible. Yes, yes. So you all are fantastically correct. So when we say database, it's more like an avenue or a house where we keep all our data, where we store all our data for reference purpose. Now, for instance, I might say for everyone in this class now, and one of the reasons why we collect, why we do attendance is maybe subsequently we can come up with a database to know exactly, okay, how many people were in class, the location they are coming from, the uh, the particular field in which they are, the discipline in which they are in, and certain things that they want to achieve during the course of the training. Now we can put each of those topic specific ideas like that in columns, and we have different information. Sometimes you can even put age, you can put gender, whether male or female. So when we have an array of informations like that, collaging them and storing them in a location, we tend to call them database. So databases are actually used in various business settings. We know in banks, government agencies, for big organizations that handles a lot of clients or a lot of customers where they have their information stored with them. So they house most of this information in something we call a database. For some of us that are on social media as well, I'm sure we would have heard at some point where they say uh, maybe some social media or maybe a social media platform is down or has been hacked, that probably they've extracted some data, some critical data from such a platform. So it means that for those platforms, for instance, Facebook, now if Facebook has close to about 1 billion people on their platform, they have a database of everyone. And that's why you can log onto your account and you can, maybe you log out of your account now and you can always go back to that account and the same information that you left on that account is still the same thing. So it means that every information that you supplied on that platform has been kept in such a way that anytime you come back to revisit that platform, that information will still remain intact, except you're the one that changed that information or you alter that information or you do anything with regards to that information as the case may be. So there are so many um, uh, ways in which we can express database, or probably so many tools that can be used for database. The most easiest one is our Microsoft Access. I don't know if any one of us knows about Microsoft Access. So Microsoft Access is one of the most easiest form to create database that we know of as of today. Then in terms of servers, we have the Oracle, or we have the Microsoft SQL servers, or what we call MySQL, as the case may be. Then maybe for the cloud, we have for the Amazon, we have for the Azure, we have for Google Cloud platforms as well. So when we talk about the concept of database, so it's really to talk about how we keep our information in a place that one is safe, uh, in a place that we can always go back to retrieve our information at every point in time. Now, this will take me, I want to digress a bit into the idea of information security. Now, if you look at information security, there are three triad of that information security, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And all of these are critical parts that really solidify the security of our database. If the data that you have of your customers that you have in your database, if they are not confidential enough, and what that means is, if I want to log into Facebook now, I am the only person that is permitted to see my Facebook account. So it means that it is extremely confidential, that I cannot log into another person's email address, another person's Facebook account, because I don't have their credentials. And their credentials, maybe their email address, their password, uh, their username, as the case may be. So all of this critical information, whether their email address, their password, their username, or any other identifier as the case may be, they are all stored in something that we call a database. And it is until I impute the right password before I can get access into that platform. So integrity, it means that nothing can be changed with regards to the information that we have on the database. Nothing can be altered. The availability, it means that at any point in time that I want to log into my Facebook account, whether 2 a.m. in the morning, whether 10 p.m. at night, or 4 p.m. in the afternoon, I will gain access to that database. So these are very critical aspects of database or data in the landscape of handling or storing data as the case may be. So when exactly at a time that, or how do we get to know when to use our databases? Now, for instance, if we are in a scenario where we have maybe we have a business now that we are having multiple customers, and we want those multiple customers to access certain resources at every point in time, then we tend to create a database where those users can make use of that platform at every point in time. I make mention of Facebook as an example. Now we can understand that for Facebook, it's not like a system where maybe when somebody is logged in, every other person will wait until the person is done before they can log in. So it means that everywhere around the world, millions of people can log in at the same time before we can say that, okay, yes, they are working concurrently, or they are accessing that platform concurrently. So it means that on that platform, different tests would have been done for it to have that strength to withstand that concurrent users. Something we call regression tests, might be module tests, different kind of testing would have been done on that platform to make sure that the database is rigid enough to withstand multiple users at the same time. Then you look at scalability. You said database servers such as MySQL or Oracle, they are extremely scalable. And the scalability is that it allows access to hundreds or tens of thousands of users at the same time. So it's more similar to the concurrent user. So the scalability is the ability for that database to handle a myriad of people working uh, on that particular database or platform at the same time. At the same time. So that's enable, or that make us to understand that such a database is scalable. Now, for instance, the platform that we are making use of here, Zoom Workspace, that we are all making use of to gain access to this training. And we can say it is scalable in the sense that everyone can come in, everyone are here at the same time. Now, people can be typing at the same time. It's not that someone will type, you have to wait for someone else to finish typing. You now say, okay, I'm done before the next person can type. So it is scalable because everyone can access the platform at the same time. Everyone can do one or few things at the same time. And as the case may be, we can all unmute our mic and be speaking at the same time. So it's not that it's in a batch process that when somebody is done speaking, then the next person will speak as well. So that explains the scalability of what databases are exactly. So another thing is speed. Now, when you want to access multiple information now, let's say for instance, on your social media platform now, you want to search for maybe the president of Liberia, for instance. You want to search for the information about the president of Liberia. All you need to do is to go to a search button and you click it, and in no seconds, it will bring that information out. If that information exists there, it will spool that information out. So it's not a kind of database, or it's not a kind of scenario where we have everything. Maybe the database that we are having is on paper, and we are now searching one after the other. Okay, where is the president of Liberia? And looking for that information. It is going to take a whole lot of time to really achieve that particular action. It's going to take a lot of time. And one of the things that that is very needed when we are talking about speed is the RAM, the read access memory in the database is treated with extreme criticality, because it is actually something that is supposed to be highly intensive. And I'm sure some of us will know the difference between SSDs and HDDs when it comes to storage devices. So it is much more preferred for us to use the SSDs compared to HDD, just because of the critical nature, because it is extremely memory intensive. So we don't want a scenario where there will be a breakage, or probably there will be an attack on each of the storage devices, because the SSD is much more protected in one way or the other compared to the HDD. So that's why when it comes to speed, we consider the RAM, and while considering the RAM, also we look at the aspect of the SSD rather than the HDD, as the case may be. Then variety of data. Now, we understand the idea behind spreadsheets. We know that when it comes to our Excel, for instance, now for our Excel, Excel also can suffice as a database. We can use our Excel to do database. Yes, we can use, especially when we use formulas like VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and we can use it for a very beautiful database. But one way or the other, when it comes to images, and we are trying to picture images and all those things, we realize that the level of consistency of that data it's not as smooth, or it won't give us a smooth experience when we are trying to access those data, as the case may be. So that's why for databases, it can house any amount or any type of data, as the case may be, whether it is visual data, whether it is numbers, whether it is letters, whatever level of data that we want to uh, store in the database. It can really accommodate any type of data. Then data persistence. User expects their data to be stored indefinitely, and this is what is meant by data persistence. So for database now, it means that once you store your data on the database, except you delete that data remains there permanently. It remains there permanently. Now, there are so many other features, so many other things that we can do on our database. We can select, we can delete, we can update, those kind of information. So when we have a database and we decide to do any of these activities on them, we can say that that data will remain on that database until we decide to take it out of such a database. Then data availability. Now, this talks about there is, when I was explaining some concept the other time about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now, your data will be available since there are so many security measures put in place to ensure that there are limited access to the database. Now, as much as we all have access to Facebook, now you do not have access to the database of everybody on Facebook. Yes, you can search for information about somebody on Facebook. Yes, you can look out for several things that we want to look out for on Facebook. But then when it comes to the management of the database, it is actually done. I think Facebook themselves, they will have their own in-house engineers that help them to manage their infrastructure, or help them to manage the aspect of the database as well. And each of these persons, they have their roles and responsibility. It means that they understand who, or there's an understanding of who is accessing any database at every point in time. So if you are accessing the database and something goes wrong, it is easy for you to be pinpointed that you are the one that caused an issue on the database. So it's something that it is available at every point in time. And that's why any one of us can go on Facebook and we log in and we get our information. So that explains the availability nature of our data on the database. Then for security, it means that database provides much more granular security than spreadsheets. So we know that for databases, user might have the access specific columns or rows of data, but not seeing anything else. So for when you are talking about your database, they are, speaking higher level now, there are certain persons that manage the security aspect of the database. And because as much as maybe, for instance, in an organization, you have a core application, and for those core application, you as users are, maybe for instance, let me make use of any bank as the case may be. Now, there might be a platform or an application where someone that wants to register for, or probably they want to open an account in the bank, where they will input their information. And at the back end, those information will be stored in the database. So the essence of having security for the database is, it is only the person that owns the account that should have access to the account. It is only the person that has the credentials for that account is the only person that is certified to gain access into that account. And what the backend engineers try to do, or administrators make sure that they do, is it is only the maybe the email address or the specified password or username that such a user has inputted. Any other thing aside from that, either case sensitive wise, any other thing aside from that, will not allow them to gain access into such platform. Now, I'm sure most of us, we have tried this as much as possible, maybe on any platform that we are in, and maybe while we are opening that platform, maybe our username is ABCD and our password is 123, and we now want to, or we open the account with a we use cap lock, like the capital letter ABC, to open the account. And when we now want to maybe access it and we decide to put small letter ABC. Now, if the on the platform, if the letters that you put there are case sensitive, definitely it will alert you that you are imputing the wrong username, as the case may be. And this is more like a security measures also that has been put in place from the database administrators to ensure that it is only the specified or required username or password that should be imputed at every point in time. So we are looking at database. So this is more like a simple data in access. So I don't know if, let me quickly open, my Microsoft Access so we can see exactly what we are talking about. Okay, just a second. I want to be sure we can see my screen. Okay, let me stop sharing this and let me share this. Just a second, sorry. Trying to share my other screen. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure we can see my screen here.
Yes, please, we can.
Okay, so this is more like just a demonstration of how Microsoft Access, if you want to come up with a database. So this is more like there's an already uh, done, like there's a database already existing. So I just want to use that as a simulation to explain certain things to us. So over and over, I'll be going there to explain some concepts that we are going to be explaining during the course of the training. So we can see here, it says I should continue. So it's more like it's pre-configured. So opening this, I have I have configured my username to log in into this. So it's more like for everyone to gain access into a database itself. Definitely, there would have been, your account would have been created. So for most organizations, it's more like your account will be created through the Active Directory. To gain access to all platforms as the case may be. So it means that if you're being onboarded into an organization and through the Active Directory, you have been profiled, your account has been created. So it means that maybe you are coming in as a database administrator, then you will now use that profile to gain access into this platform. So I log in, now it now give me access to the database, and there are so many things that we can see from this database. You can see from the admin, you can see customers, you can see employees, you can see main menu, you can see orders, products, programming, queries, reports, stand-ups, or tables, as the case may be. So most of these concepts are the ones that we are going to be explaining during the course of this conversation. So I just showed us this one, so I won't close it. It's something that over and over we'll be coming back to explain some concepts as the case may be. Okay, we go back here. Okay, so that's just explain the simple data in Access, where we have different columns, and each of the columns now, we can see the ID. the one that talks about the ID, the last, first, phone, email. Now, each of the columns are the ones that we refer to as the fields. Each of the columns are what we call the fields. Then the ones that are the rows are what we call the records. Please note, the columns are what we call fields. The rows are what we call records. So if it is a worksheet, now maybe for Excel, for instance, so we are going to have the data like this compared to the one that we have in Excel. We're just going to have it like this in for Excel. So now we are going straight into conversation around maybe types or kinds of database. There's something we call relational database. So these are probably they are set of they are probably example of structured data. And when we talk about structured data, it's really emphasizing on the ability for your data to be consistent in a particular way that you have configured them to be, in the sense that if you have configured you want your data to be in form of pie charts now, or probably when you are doing you did a configuration that you want to represent your data maybe with Power BI, you want them to be in graphical format and all those things. Now we can say they are structured because there is a pattern for, whether it is pie charts or bar charts, they have precise pattern. They are predictable, they are organized, as the case may be. So relational database are organized or predictable. We have tables there containing columns and rows or text or numerical data, as the case may be. And we know that all databases are managed by a database management system. So when we are talking about the management of database itself, we are referring to the management system of the database. Exactly. So for relational database now, we see it as, okay, we have a relational database management system. So, and sometimes both of them can be used interchangeably. And yes, they can be used interchangeably because in actual sense, database itself, in most cases, database are seen as being organized or structured, as the case may be. But there are there are exceptions too. There are some databases that are not structured that exist as well. So the database management system ensures data integrity by enforcing that there's no duplicate role allowed within the database. And this, so when we talk about integrity, it means that there is no, the information that we are supplying or the data that we are supplying, the data is complete. It means that there is no repetition for the data, or that data is not altered at any point in time. So that is what we talk about data integrity. So by doing a duplicate of the rows, as the case may be, definitely can hinder the integrity of such a data. So it's something that will enforce at every point in time that they are not allowed. The columns value must not be arrays or repeating groups of data. So even while we have the columns too, which is the fields, they must not have a repetition when it comes to data as well. We will not have repetition when it comes to data, as the case may be. Then where data is not present, when null values are used. Where data are not present, null values. So when we talk about null is like something like probably is we can say instead of writing zero for database instead of writing zero, the null value is actually what we use. So null value is what we accommodate here. The concept behind relational database, there's something we call schema. So this schema, these are like the rules and structure of the database itself. So it's what defines the tables, the forms, the reports, the queries, the data types allowed, and almost everything in the database. So the schema is actually what defines everything that we do. on the database. And there are two types of them. One of them is the logical schema, and one of them is the physical schema. The physical is the actual tables, either column, the relationship created in the relational database management system. Maybe you have about 4 different tables, or you have 2 tables, for instance, and each of the 2 tables, they have similar content, or maybe from the table you have ID number from table A, and ID number, you have staff ID, you have staff name, you have staff location, and on the other table you now have staff location starting that table. So that means staff location exists in both of them. So we can say it is relational in that area. So relational database. And for the logical, this outlines the structure of the database, such as the table and their columns, and relationship between tables. Logical schemas can be created by almost any visual diagramming software package, or even in spreadsheets, as the case may be. Now, if you can see this example that we are seeing on the screen that explains the logical relational database schema. Now, we can see from the student table, we have fields like student ID, the last name, the first name, the address, the phone, the email, the major, the credit, as the case may be. Now, for some of us that we are still in higher institution, or for some of us, I'm sure most of us will have come across this before. Maybe while we are trying to do registration, maybe we are registering for from the departmental level, or we are doing school registration at every point in time. Realize that for the forms that we are filling, there is tendency that there are relationship between either the form that we fill from the school level or the one that we filled from the departmental level. So each of them like that, they are relational in that case. They are logically related in that database. Then we see from the registrar, we see student ID. And we can see similarities from the student table and the registrar table. They have a similarity, which is the student ID. And this is a key indicator that we can use to, generate information from, because most of the time, if the information on the student ID has been completed, if this information on the student ID has been completed, we can use that student ID name to get certain information also from the registrar table. So it's more like there's a link of a link into all of them. So one person can, maybe after all this information has been filled now, we can just use a single key, a single information to search for that student, as the case may be. It's more like, as every one of us that we are here, imagine we have an ID, we have a tag, we have different identifiers to us, as the case may be. So once we just use those key identifiers to find out what is or who is who, then we get to know those informations that we want to really achieve, as the case may be. Then tables. These are what looks like worksheets or contain data. So when we talk about tables, I'm sure every one of us, we have seen an idea of what a table is, especially when it comes to our spreadsheets. Is when you have multiple columns and you have rows attached to them as well. So each of those columns. Now, when we talk about the columns, they talk about the columns are the ones that addresses the fields, and the row are the one that really talk about uh, the rows are the one that addresses what we call the records. Rows addresses what we call the records, as the case may be. Sorry, I want to explain something there. Okay, for the fields now, column in a table are called fields. And fields contain a single data type for all records. For example, a field can contain a phone number, cost, or other numerical data, or a name, product description, or other data, as the case may be. So for a table in a database to be relational, it must have primary key, In fact, its creation is mandatory when a table is created. So primary key is one or more fields whose data is used to identify a record uniquely. And these are the following must be true or primary key. The data in is the combination of columns must be unique, and no value in the column can blank or null. So example of that is what we are seeing here. You can see from here that for this particular diagram that we're having here, we're looking at the logical schema with primary key. It means that we are looking at those keys that are specific or that relates one or two different tables together. Now we can see from the students and also the registrar table, we have similarities when it comes to their student ID. Then from the registrar table to the course table, we have course ID as specific. And for the course table and instructor table, we have both instructor ID as specific in there. So we can see examples of primary keys and foreign keys. We just want to see their different discrepancy. Primary key is required. The numbers allowed per table is 1. There is no limit for secondary for foreign key. Then automatically indexed, yes, for primary key, but no for foreign key. Duplicates values allowed, no for primary key, yes for foreign key. No value allowed, no for primary key, yes for foreign key. Therefore, function, we say uniquely identify records in the table. Then this refer to records in primary key table, as the case may be. The forms are how data is entered into or often viewed from a database standpoint. Now, when we talk about form, let me quickly. So I'm going to be looking at form, query, and reports. I'll be explaining it from the access standpoint. All right. So forms, we look at from this, we can see so an example of forms is, when for some of us that we are filling some certain forms, these are what it look like. When we are asked to fill a form, for instance, let's fill this form together and see exactly if it's going to be stored on the database. So form are more like how data are entered into or often viewed from your database, as the case may be. Now, I can decide to like say, okay, let me use a generic name. Sorry, it might be so. Okay, let me use someone's name in the group. Let me use James. James Ocon. Job title, you can say Chief Operating Officer. Chief Operating Officer. The email address, I can say the email address is James at 123.com. And his phone number, you can say is 01 5555555. Okay, that's the phone number. The secondary phone number, you can say just put any number. His title, okay, we call him Dr. James. And the notes we have, so we can leave the same notes there as the case may be. So when we are entering forms, we come across things like this. We come across things like this. So when we make use of forms like this and we input that information, so it means that that information from that form will be stored in a database. And when it is stored in a database, that means when we go back to that form and see exactly the information that we've inputted, we are supposed to see it somewhere. So we can see that information here. So see, this is more like a database that we have created now. So we can see the second one, James Okon. Then it has the email address, it has the position, it has the various information that we have stored there as well. Those information are there as well. So form is more like, I'm sure at almost every point in time, whether on Facebook or social media platforms, while we are trying to register for, we are trying to log in or probably gain access to some platform. There will have been some forms that we fill to supply our credentials. Once we start gaining access to that platform. So this is how our information is stored on the database. Now you can see that the way this information are stored here now is not exactly how it was structured while I was filling the form. So from the back end, now this is what we look like. So that means that James cannot come into that platform and decide to use another name aside from James Okon, or cannot use another email address. So once all of these informations, key indicators, are not used to log into that platform, it will not gain access into that platform. So that's more like what forms look like. So queries. So for query, they are more like the real power of database. They let you, do whatever manipulation that you want to do on your data. They allow you to do so many things on your data. Maybe if you have a database now that has so many records, so query are the only realistic way that you can find anything useful. Like for instance, you want to find out employee details. You want to find out, okay, these are the list of the employees that we have. So you now want to look out for their details like that. So it is through query that we can get to know those employees' information as the case may be. It is through queries that we can use to gain those information as the case may be. So query is more like performing the whole gymnastics or doing everything, data manipulation as the case may be, that you want to do on all the data that you have as the case may be. So query is what you make use of. Therefore, reports. So reports are generated to answer specific questions. For example, maybe we want to see exactly how many orders that we have. And let me go to the aspect of reports and see. So these reports shows us the email address of employees that we have. If at all we just want to look at the email address of all the employees that we have. So these reports will help us to show the email address of all the employees. Or you want to see sales that each employee made. So for here, there is no sales being configured that each employee has made so far. So that's pretty much what report is. If you want to spool out reports based on because the essence of database is you have different tables that addresses different needs. Like for instance, you are selling a product. Now, if you're selling a product and you have different employees, so on the form, when you are registering the product sale. Definitely the name of the employee that sold the product also will be on that product. And that's why we can get this particular one that says sales by employee. It means that every product that you've sold, that product will be reflected on such employee as the case may be. So, and the idea behind reports is being generated from that standpoint, to be generated from that standpoint. Okay, let me quickly switch over again. Sorry that I'm switching over. I just want to explain, the example of how it looked like, and I will so much appreciate also if we all can take time out and see exactly, because it's a larger scale when we are trying to do with my SQL, or we are trying to deal with Oracle database. But this access is actually what's grind us from the granular states to help us get to that point where we can understand what exactly we need to know, or the fundamentals of what database looks like. I'm pretty much sure that most of us we have encountered something like this before, but then it's much more important for us to broaden our knowledge and our ideas when it comes to understanding database itself. Sorry, can you see my screen?
Yes, please. Your screen is visible.
Okay. I don't know if what I'm supposed to share is what I'm sharing. That's what I'm asking. Please, what are you seeing on the screen?
So non-relational database.
Okay, 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 okay. All right. That's fine. Okay, so I need to transfer it to the next screen. I need to transfer this to the next screen. Sorry. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. So non-relational databases. So initially, we stated that relational databases are very essential for handling structured data. And we know that not all data are that structured. We have some data that are not structured or non-structured, and we have some that are semi-structured. Semi-structured in the sense that they possess both the attributes of a structured data, or maybe they lack consistency in their structured nature. Maybe at some point they are structured, and at some other points they are unstructured. So those are the ones that we call semi-structured data. So both semi-structured and non-structured are the one that follows, or that falls under non-relational database. So for non-structured now, we know that when it comes to maybe forecast now, data forecast as the case may be, especially when it comes to weather forecasts, sometimes we can see that the estimation that is being made from those weather forecasters, sometimes they lack consistency. We can say at some point those data are not consistent, or they are not structured, in the sense that maybe they are trying to say that for Lagos now, the degrees will be that it is going to rain, and it's going to be 40 degrees, how they do their measurements, and they say it that way. And you realize that throughout the day, sometimes the figures don't match, or the degrees don't match, and eventually rain does not fall. So at some point, the data that they generated based on their own findings, on their own research, they tend to be non-structured, as the case may be. So example of non-structured data also could be pictures, videos, web pages, email, documents, text, social media. And the data is considered unstructured because it doesn't fit neatly into a database. So for a database now, if we are going to have social media, components, or we are going to have various videos, as the case may be, in the database. Definitely, we are going to make sure that that database move out of the scope of relational database and get into a much more non-relational database. So for organizations that are coming up, it depends, though, it depends on the data that you produce or the criticality of the information that you generate in the organization. Now, for organizations like banks, now, in most cases, they tend to follow the relational database approach compared to the non-relational database approach, or probably they might have two different database components. That there's one that handles the structured part of it, and there's another one that handles whether the semi-structured or the non-structured part of it. So for the semi-structure, so this is more like coin from both. It takes attributes from both the structured, and it takes attributes from both the unstructured. So those are the ones that we call semi-structured data. Then under that non-relational database as well, we have document database. So these are more like, they sound more like a structured, but they are unstructured, because whatever we keep on such a database is just document, database, and we just make sure that we that database uh, is created for the sake of document, or we're just storing documents in that database, as the case may be. Then key value database, this talks about data is represented as a collection of key value pairs, and it manages associative arrays of data, also known as dictionary, which is the collection of objects or records. So a key is more like an arbitrary string of character. It can be file name or URL or random character, but it must be unique. It must be unique. And some popular database that handles this are Amazon DynamoDB, which is a multi-model database management system. We have the Azure Cosmos database and the Oracle NoSQL, as the case may be. So maybe outside of this training, we can individually make research about these various databases as well, because the content that we have for the training might not be sufficient enough for you to dive deep. That's why we said this is the foundational class. So it's just for you to know or have an overview of what each of these databases, as the case may be, their representation of how they exist. So there are several ways to access a database, which include either manual access or we have direct access. For manual access, it explains, or it means going directly into the tables of a database to view or change a data. And if the user wants to view or change few cells, it's not usually much of a problem, as the case may be. For direct access, people use the term as an acronym for manual access sometimes, but it's not supposed to be, as the case may be. So one of the things, or one of the environments in which we make use of direct access is, we are talking about APIs, application programming interface, or we are talking about open database connectivity, or Java database connectivity link. So most of these platforms are the ones that we consider direct access, because at some point, especially when we come about the APIs, for banks, supposedly, if banks are going to be having, maybe on their platform, they want to include different APIs that does different things like that. So when we say APIs, application programming interface, it's more like you want to include, maybe on their website now, they are selling a product, or maybe an organization is selling a product, and on their website they want to include information about payments. So they will include that API for the payments. They will just, I'm sure some of us, we have seen this particular one. Maybe we are trying to download a material online, and they are telling us that it's supposed to be paid for, it's a paid version, and they give us a link, and they tell us that maybe you use your PayPal, or use your different platforms like that can really help you to perform that transaction very well. So those are API that are embedded on those platforms. That's the idea behind API. So the remote computer establishes a link between itself and the table with one of those methods, and then has direct access to the data table. So as I mentioned the other time, this is an example of what an access table does look like. So when we look at this, just like the example that we showed us the other time, you can see there are multiple fields, and we have various columns as well that we have on this platform, as the case may be. So programmatic access. So this more like it means accessing the data through a program or a programming method. And SQL is actually one of the common programming language used to work with data in databases. Can someone quickly just help us? What is SQL? Can you tell us the full meaning of SQL? Anyone want to help us out on the chat box? Anyone want to help us out? Thank you very much, Hadi. Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. Structured query language. Structured query language. So it's more like if you want to get anything, done, that you want to do some, manipulation about data, as the case may be. Maybe you want to select, you want to update, you want to delete, you want to, any activities that you want to do. This language is a structured query language. So it's something that you will at some point impute to get those activities done well on your database, as the case may be. So user interface and utility access. So instead of accessing the database manually, users can use a graphical interface or utility. The interface could be built into the database program or specifically developed to access the data. So one of the things that they are talking about with regards to this is, for instance, find a way to connect. I'm sure some of us will know Power BI. Maybe you have your database, for instance. You want to calculate the total amount of number of sales that is being done for the month. And you want to compare for all the months of the year. Maybe you are trying to do a financial report for the year for how many products that is being sold. So instead of coming with a plain text language to come up with that report, we can do it in such a way that it is represented by some diagrams that really explain exactly the progress that the organization has made with regards to each product that they are selling at every point in time. And if maybe, for instance, they are selling those products in different regions, and they realize that at some point in a particular region, sales was high, and at some point the sales was getting low. So it will help them to make some decision on how to to understand the season where that product in that environment is most needed, and it will help them to make a quick decision in that light. So we can see example of a form in Microsoft Access, how a form look like the one I showed us the other time. You input those information, and once you add the product, definitely it will be stored on in the database. So creating a database. The SQL command to create a database is create. For instance, you want to just create a database now. Okay, let's see exactly how to do that. Let's see exactly how to do that. I want us to. I wish someone does anyone have access on their system? Anyone have access, so that it won't look like I'm just the only one doing it from here? Does anyone have Microsoft Access application on their system? Anyone at all? Please, if you have, let me see a show of hand. Okay, it's more like there's nobody that has that. All right, so not Word, sir, Mr. Ibrahim. I'm not talking about Microsoft Word. It's a Microsoft Access. so that we can demonstrate how we can, create or manage a database. We just want to see demonstration, at least from, you guys out there. I want to see demonstration from you guys out there. But anyways, no problem about that. No problem about that. We see exactly from here. Okay. All right. All right. So once we are trying to create a database, the syntax for some of us that we do computer science, we understand when we say syntax, it's more like the approach in which we create that database. Or maybe you want to write the code now. You just write it like create database, then database underscore name. So then we can give our database name. We can decide to call it CompTIA training class, and we have it like that. Then we save this in the SQL server. That okay, this database is now created. Now, it now depends on the fields that we want to keep in the database. Now, if, for instance, we want to create, student record, or we want to, save some table, we want to create some tables like that with regards to, student record, then we create those tables, we write the syntax here, create tables, then we write column one, the data type. Now, the essence of putting data types for beside each of the column is to understand that, okay, the fields that we are going to be storing in that column, is that the data there, is it supposed to be a letter? Is it supposed to be in different data types, maybe Boolean, those data types are numerous like that. Maybe integer, as the case may be. We tend to understand how we can we identify those data types. So the columns might be as much as possible. Can decide to name them close to about 50 columns. Depends on those things that we need. But then each of the column, we must have a precise data type that we want to impute in each of the column, as the case may be. And sometimes also you can import data, or you try to input data into your database, as the case may be. So, and the format, when you want to load, for instance, you want to import the data from another location. Now you load the data file. Maybe you are loading it from Excel, for instance. You want to load it into the students field, something like that. So you load the data, identify the source where that data is coming from, and you load it into the table. Then automatically the data will be uploaded into the table. So it means that you can upload a data from maybe Excel, for instance. Now, why Excel? Because Excel and Access, they almost have similar ways. Like you can come up with a table, you can uh, you can do some sorting, you can do some manipulation with each tables, as the case may be, in different worksheets, as the case may be. So they are similar in that area, but the likes of Microsoft Words, I don't think that can really work. And most of the time when you are loading into Access to, formats are very important. I don't think .doc or or PPT for PowerPoint. I don't think those ones can really work when you're trying to import files into the database. Then dropping database and tables. Dropping. Okay, Ade Juyigbe said, can you show us a practical explanation from the Access package? Okay, all right, I'll do that. I'll do that. So let's see. Just a minute, sorry. Okay, just a minute. Hold on. I'm trying to import a data from Excel. Okay. All right. All right. So let me share my screen so we can see. Yeah, we can see this, right?
Yes, we
Can we see?
can.
Okay.
Yes, please, we can.
Okay. So I want to bring in a file from Excel now. From Excel, and it asks me where exactly is the file located. And search. Maybe, for instance, I want to come up with yeah, PCI DSS evidence lists. Okay, so it's now asking a question: import the source data into a new table in the current database, or append a copy of the record to the table, or link the data source by creating a linked table. So what we want to do is we want to use the first option: import the source data into a new table in the current database. So we click, and it asks us some informations that first row contain column heading. So we go next. Then for each of the field, now we have the option of um, whatever thing that the field name, that's the column that we want to make use of. What exactly are the information that we want to have in the column? So we can say serial number, serial number. Uh, for the data type now, we can see it has double here. So these are the various type of various data types that we have. Either it is uh, Boolean, which is yes or no, true or false. That's for Boolean. For bytes, we have bytes. For integer, we have long integer. We have currency. Maybe for that space, it is currency value that we want to input there. We use it. Then if it is single, or if it is double, we can use them. So we can learn more about these data types, especially, I don't know if the training has been conducted already, but I think there's a particular aspect of this training course that really talked about data types, which will help us really to understand uh, each types of data. And that's why when we are assessing any on any platform like that, when we are assessing any information, is we can see that there is not every type of data that we can put in a respective field. For instance, if you had maybe at some point you make use of some characters now in a particular field, they will tell you this particular character is not allowed on this field. So they will tell you, okay, this is just for numbers alone, or this is just for alphabet alone, or here you can use different data type as the case may be. So you can see here we have date with time. It means that once we put date with time here, it means that every data that will fall under that particular point, that particular field, every one of them must be dates with time, as the case may be. So either short text or long text or binary, as the case may be. So that's what data type really talks about. That's what really talk about. So we've seen from here. So we'll just look at, okay, what next should we do? We go to next. We go to next, and then let access add primary key, or you choose my own primary key, your own choice, or you don't want a primary key, as the case may be. So what this means is that the primary key will be the one to, maybe you want to relate it with a particular, maybe there's another table elsewhere that you want to relate this particular table to. Like for instance, as we have serial numbers now. Now, if you have another table that you have serial numbers to, and you want to link or you want to understand uh, the field that we have for requirements here. Maybe on the other table you have serial number, and you also have for another field you have uh, you have mapping with 27,001. Let's just say mapping with 27,001, and you look at it from that standpoint. So it means that for serial number one, it will bring out both requirements for this PCI-DSS, and it also will bring out the other one for the mapping with 27,001. And when you are looking at it, it will now bring both of them side by side. So it's more like the primary key between them is the serial number. Primary key within them is the serial number. So we can decide not to have primary key. Then we go to next. Then it's import to table. Then we finish. CIDSS requirements. Save imports. Then we look out for where our data is. We look out for where our data itself is. So just a minute, sorry. So we run it here. Okay, so there was an error message. Not all the data was successfully imported. Sorry about that. I think there was an issue trying to upload uh, such an information to this database itself. So maybe I should create a new one. Should create a new one outside of this. Just a minute. Hold on. Let me reopen. Let me reopen it. Let me reopen it.
Larry, I think you have a message in the chat box. Somebody saying that he has been able to import from Excel and it shows.
Okay, let me see. Let me see that. Okay. I'm able to report from Excel and it shows. Okay. Can you share your screen so we see it? If you can share your screen, Mr. Afolabi, so that we can learn this together. Okay, okay, okay. So I don't know, Mr. Afolabi, are you sharing your screen? Okay, you can't. Okay, don't worry. Let me share mine. Let me share mine. I've found a way around it. So if you can see my screen now, I've been able to, I created a new database itself. So I didn't leverage on the one that was existing before. So that's when I was able to extract, or probably those information, I can see those information as the case may be. So we can see the requirement itself. We can see, the various other things or evidences that are there. You can see the fields, the requirements, the responsibility, the evidences. So it helps us to create this in a table, in a form of database. So this is just uh, a rough data. So the data we might be using might be rigid enough. It might be that this information are that they are actually live data. Might not just be a data that we just fabricate like this one. So it might be a live data. And when you have such kind of data, you can put it, you can extract it into Access, and it will help you to, have this kind of setting. And also you can do some, there are so many things that you might want to do on the data itself that probably you just want to, create some kind of, reporting, or you want to do some other things on the data. It can really help you to, do all of those activities as the case may be. So you can do compact and repair database. You can do, you can analyze the performance. You can analyze your table. So many of these features are here already. So I don't want us to too much dwell on this. So as I said, this is more like a foundational course where we can develop ourselves more into it. So I don't expect that this is all the training that you are going to have when it comes to database. So this is more like a foundation just to have a clearer understanding of what we are doing when we come to, we talk about database itself. So going straight back to the content of the uh, content that we are talking about initially. So we are going on break by 12. So I want to make sure that I address a lot of things before we go on break by 12, so that we don't come back and still be talking about the same thing. So dropping database and tables. So this is more like sometimes we need to delete tables or database, and in database time, it is known as dropping. So if you want to delete a database or you want to delete a table, you use the drop database, then it puts the name of the database or the table in question, and you put that name there, and you can go ahead to delete such database. And manipulating data. So you can do manipulation, whether with the insert, the select, the update, the delete, as the case may be. So these are, syntax in which we can follow when we want to want to perform any of those activities, whether for selection, whether for insert, whether for update, or we want to delete, as the case may be. So backing up database. So there are two recommended ways to back up our database. The first is database dump. Database dump, which uh, is a one-time logical backup of a database. You can export both the schemas. I remember when we talk about the schemas, we have an example of what we call the logical schemas and what we have as the physical schemas as well. So you can, export the schemas, the tables, the views, and the data, and the backup, they are executed through a backup program, which is a physical backup program as well. It is executed through that route. Yes, yes, they are mainly for SQL. So this syntax can work basically for SQL. When it comes to Oracle, Oracle might have another, you know, it's more like, let me explain this time. Now, when you come to your firewall, or probably those networking infrastructure, as the case may be. Maybe you have your switches, you have your routers, you have all of those. You have different vendors, and each of those vendors might have different, approach to how you do your configuration. Like I can say that the way you configured your Cisco switches might be different from the way you configured your Huawei switches. Because for Huawei switch, they have their own respective syntax on how you want to, maybe you are making use of, this either PowerShell, or you are making use of any tool like that they used to do their configuration. They used to have a tool. Huawei used to have a tool like that, forgotten the name, that they used to do their own configuration of their networking device, whether the router, the switch, or even the servers, as the case may be. So the language is completely or slightly different from what we have when it comes to the Cisco, or we have other vendors like that that does configuration on their devices. So likewise for this as well. For SQL, you can use the syntax. This syntax work precisely well for SQL, but for that of the Oracle, there might be some slight variation in the syntax. Sometimes it might be the same, but I've not really worked on that environment of the Oracle. But for the SQL, I can say this syntax is actually effective for SQL. I don't know, Mr. Falabi, do you agree with me, or or you have an ulterior, different answer to that? All right, thank you very much. All right, so I think now we have, over around database. So we can't really say that we have dived deep into database, but we just over around it. So as I said, I will encourage us to go back and do more research on database and learn more on our own, so that we can, be better in that field, that area. So the next one, the second, because we have 4 topics that we want to talk about today. The next one talks about exploring connection types and features. Exploring connection types and features. And here we are choosing external network connections. External network connections. So by external, we mean internet connections, because that's the most type of connection that most of us are faced with. We know of the internet connection, and before we got here of because right now we are making use of 5G network, and most of us, we can surf the internet, and in a twinkle of an eye we are getting the information that we need from that particular resource. But then it wasn't like that from the onset. So we have different approach to interconnection. Initially, we have the dial-up approach that was previously used. We have the broadband, we have the DSL, cable network, as the case may be. So most of these approaches were adopted by our ISPs, internet service providers, in ensuring that we have connection to maybe on our system, or we want to gain access to one or more platform, as the case may be. Now, we want to look at dial-up, or what we call the POTS, POTS, as plain old telephone service. Plain old telephone service. So this is actually one of the oldest way of communicating with ISP and remote network through dial-up connections. It is it's something that you have your system and you have your modem connected to the internet, and when it comes to connection to the internet now, it's all about speed. And when we look at the rate at which making use of dial-up can, or the speed of dial-up, is 56 kilobit per seconds, which is extremely slow. So sometimes we can sleep and wake up, and the information we are trying to gain access to is still loading on the internet, as the case may be. So dial-up is more like one of the oldest approach in which in which we want to gain access to the internet, that we make use of, and it involves the regular use of phone lines, as the case may be. So one of the advantages of dial-up is that it is completely cheap, or it is extremely cheap and relatively easy to configure. Something that there's no big deal, or there's no rocket science that one needs to employ while trying to do the configurations, as the case may be. And one of the reasons why it might be a right solution or a good approach for some people could be that the only hardware is required is you have modem and you have phone cord. Once you have your modem and you have your cord to your phone, you can always you know make use of it. And recently, most of the modem that we are using too, the modem, maybe the one from the router from the MTN, or different vendors like that. Now, some of them can perform that functionality of dialogue in the sense that we understand that it's a Wi-Fi device. It's a device that you can connect through a Wi-Fi connection and all those things. But then sometimes you can decide to opt for a cable connection, and I'm sure we have the Ethernet, connection to, or yeah, Ethernet on our system, which will enable us to connect through the modem, through that route as well. And it's just that the speed of it is not as fast as we might need. So it's relatively easy to set up and configure. It's the cheapest online solution, between $10 to $20 per month. So it's more like in recent times, most people will not opt for this, because before you know it, your data subscription would have been exhausted and you achieved nothing, as the case may be. So, and you can use it wherever there is phone service, which is just about everywhere. So this is something that recent times most people don't use it again. Why? Because of the speed. Because right now, when people are surfing the internet, they want speed. Speed is actually what a lot of people are looking for now whenever they're accessing the internet. Then we have another one called the DSL. The DSL, which we call the digital subscriber line. Digital subscriber line. So this is one of the two most popular broadband choices for home in recent times. So we have they are in form of modem as well. They're in form of modem too, and they help us to, it's more like a faster approach compared to the dial-up connection. It's it makes use of a network card in the computer, and there are actually several different types of DSL, which include the high bit rate DSL, or very high bit rate DSL, or rate adaptive DSL, symmetric DSL, and asymmetric DSL. So the most popular of them is the asymmetric DSL. But then it's much more faster in terms of advantage over the dial-up connection. It's much more faster. The bandwidth is not shared with other users, so it's more like it's something that you can only make use of in a small confinement. It's not everyone. You cannot transfer. You cannot share with any other person, as the case may be. All right. Somebody said something. Said I don't have. Okay. Okay. Are you speaking with related to the form? Tessie, are you speaking with respect to the form? I want to be sure it's not this conversation that we're having here. Okay, okay, all right. I think Mr. James will respond to that. So disadvantages of using DSL. So this requires more hardware than dial-up. That means you have to go and get a network card, which is one of the, so for someone who is maybe an ethical hacker now, for instance, network card is something that is very much important. In short, this DSL connection is very much important for every activities that you might want to carry out. Now, I'm not talking, so I'm not teaching us ethical hacking, but for as an ethical hacker, you need to have, things that will protect your person, something that will protect that will ensure that you cannot be easily traced. So making use of this kind of connection, one way or the other, safeguard, tracing such kind of person, one way or the other, is safeguard tracing that kind of person. So making use of network cards, network cables, phone calls, line filters for each phones in the home. These are one of the disadvantage. That means one has to procure all of these things just because you want to have a digital subscriber line for internet accessibility. The stress is too much for us we're in a time where people just buy modem, or sure, they just buy data and they're just streaming and doing whatever thing that they want to do, compared to buying all of these gadgets. So this is an example of a DSM modem. This is an example of a DSM model. So as much as each and every one of us too, maybe for our homes, we tend to have this model, maybe for MTN, where we can have, connection and things like that. Now, if you're living in a bigger house and you have this kind of modem, now you still need to have connect a router to it. And router wants the function of router is to expand the bandwidth of the uh, of the of the services of or the yes for you to gain access to the internet, so that it won't just be within a location alone that you can see such you can make use of such data accessibility, as the case may be. So this is more like a picture of what a DSL modem does really look like. And for cable, the other half of the popular home broadband duet is the cable modem. So this provides high-speed internet across through your cable services. It's more like the DSL, does over phone lines, as the case may be, and it has its own advantages as well. It's much more faster than both dial-up and DSL. At least when it comes to whether you are trying to do some upload, you want to upload, your data over the internet and things like that. So it's much more faster. Then you are not required to have or use telephone landline. It is generally very reliable depending on the ISP, because there are some ISP that they don't put those things into consideration. So it depends on the ISP, as the case may be. So cables may not be available in your area, in metro areas. This normally isn't a problem, but it could be in a rural area, and it requires more hardware than dial-up. So that means on this as well, we need a network cable, we need a network card, cable modem, and most ISPs will charge you a one-time fee or a monthly lease fee for a cable modem. So what this is talking about is, similar to for some of us that run fiber, maybe you you have um, you have fiber one, for instance. You have fiber one in your location. First of all, there will be a one-time payment where they tend to do some configuration about that device in your home, where they try to connect the cables, they make a duct from a particular access point, they connect, and you get data, as the case may be. But then I am not really emphasizing on the fiber itself. I'm just talking about the cable connection. So the cable itself is what we allow for us to gain access. But then we are still going to procure a lot of things as well. But then the procurement is not on the individual. So the organization that is providing the service will be the one to procure those cable, those network card or network cables. But then the user will be charged for those things. Therefore, fiber optics, this is pretty impressive with the speed and bandwidth it delivers. It's being used mostly for high-speed telecommunication, for network backbones, for organizations that are maybe the banks now, or telecoms organization, or we have fintechs, we have tech companies that are doing extreme tech companies that maybe they have their own centralized database that is running at every point in time. They make use of fiber optic internet, because it's something that, one, is reliable, is fast, is very impressive. Its bandwidth is extremely huge, and it can cover a wide, or probably most organizations employ or adopt this kind of internet connection. An example should be Fios, or offered by Verizon, and a lot of them. In Nigeria, we have fiber optics, we have main one, and sorry, we have fiber one, we have I think main one as well. They do that, and yeah, I think MTN too. I heard MTN too. They are into fiber optic internet, as the case may be. So this mode of internet is extremely fast and reliable. It's extremely fast and reliable. So wireless internet. So this is more like we know this one already. Wireless. You have a modem, and you switch on your modem and you connect to your internet wirelessly. You don't need any cord for internet access. You don't need you know yes, you might make use of your phone line, but then you don't need to connect, different devices together to gain access to that particular, internet, as the case may be. And here we look at satellite as well. For some of us that have an idea of what the telecom industry looks like, we understand that a normal base station in the telecoms contains, various site of equipment. As much as we have cooling equipment, we have the transmission equipment, we have the power equipment, we have the mast itself, the satellite itself, and we know that most of all of these components work together so that we can have a broader accessibility to either internet or various coverage, as the case may be. So here we are the need for satellite dish and the reliance on its technology are one of the major drawbacks to satellite internet. So anyone or another drawback to satellite technology is a delay, which we call connection delay or latency. Latency is actually one of the delays that happens, when it comes to satellites. And this delay could be that maybe at some point there is power failure. For instance, for transmission equipment to really function well, there is adequate supply of power because for every devices that they have within the transmission environment, there is an amount of power that they can consume or they can use. So if those power are insufficient enough, it will hinder them from performing at the optimal level. And that will actually bring back the latency of that, or probably it will the connection, there will be connection delay while one is trying to connect through those platforms. And I'm sure some of us, we know certain networks, especially in Nigeria, that falls into that category. I don't want to mention names, but I'm sure we know there's a particular network that everybody knows that network, that this network is, you cannot connect to it, through the internet. The cellular networking. Cellular network were for years relegated to serving only one mobile device. And so recently, it's now something that, because 5G is so fast, so many users choose to connect laptop or similar devices to the internet through their telephones or cellular enabled tablets. It means that you can, once on your phone now, you have there's an icon. Most of the phones created now, there are icons that shows that you can connect to the internet once you have sufficient amount of data on your phone, or you have procured those data. Definitely you can have access to various aspects of the internet. You can connect to the internet whether through the 5G, the 3G, the 4G. I'm sure the world has moved out of 2G now, especially you are still using Symbian phone. That's when 2G is still active. But right now, we are gradually migrating away from 3G itself. So we can speak boldly about 4G and more about 5G, as the case may be, whether on your different devices. And on this cellular phone also, we have the capability also to do hotspots, maybe to share internet with friends and family. We can decide to on our hotspots from our cellular phone and give access to other people through the internet. And this is an example of what we are talking about, mobile hotspots on your phone. You have all these particular things. I'm sure if there's anyone that does not have this kind of information on their phone, can I see a thumb up so that I know that probably we need to do a contribution and buy a new phone for the president. So I'm sure we all have this kind of, whether for our Android devices or iOS device, we have hotspots, mobile hotspots where we can, connect other people when they have the network name or the password inputted very well. They can gain access to the network. So for each of the networks that we have explained now, so we talked about the download speed, the maximum download speed, and their description. For dial-up, we said it's up to 56 kilobits per second. For DSL, it is about 30 megabits per second. For cable, it is 50 megabits per second. For fiber, it is about 2 gigabit per second. For cellular, it's 1 gigabit per second. For satellite, it is 150 megabits per second. And for radio frequency, it's around 1 gigabit per second. So we can see from all of them, the fastest way of connection is still the fiber, which is 2 gigabit per second. Then we can look at both the cellular and the radio frequency as well as the next one in action. So all of this technology are the ones that we have experienced during the advent of internet connections, as the case may be. And here we are experiencing 2G. We're experiencing fiber optics, which is around 2 gigabits per second. And in no time, another level of internet connection might be created. Maybe that one will be in 1 terabyte. And before you even open your mouth to say anything, what you are searching for, you will get it on the internet. So wired network connections, they form the backbone of nearly every network in existence. It means that as much as the network that you have now, whether you have it as wireless or as fiber optics, or as anything, at one place or the other, they are wired connections. It means that when you go to a base station, for instance, to you are connecting with wireless, but in that base station, there are series of wired network connections, as the case may be. It's more like in a practical data center, for instance, and you want to connect your switches to your routers, to your servers, to your IDS, to your IPS, and you want to bring all of these devices together to your firewalls. And their need or their levels of connection, wired connections and configuration. And the essence of that wired connection is, I'm not just putting a wire from the switch to the router. There's also a communication, so that in that line, the switch will understand that I am talking to the router through this line. And whatever conversation that is going to be going on between the switches and the router, they are programmed conversation. It means that there are some certain information or some certain things that the switches is supposed to allow the routers to do, and there are certain things you're supposed to deny the routers from doing. So that's the essence of having those configuration and having those wired. More so when it comes to our transmission or network or wired network connections, there is need for us to understand that there are various cables that we can use. It might be unshielded, twisted pair cable. It might be for the transmission. We might have different kind of cable for the transmission. We might have different cables for the power, which is, you can have category 5 cables. You can have different levels of cables, as the case may be, for the wired network connection. But each of these wired connections, they must have their specific needs or their specific purpose why they are being used, and their pre-configured activities in which they need to carry out, or in which they need to enforce, while there's connection between different devices within the transmission environment. So transmission rates, we have twisted pair. One of the 2 types of cables, we have twisted pair, or we have fiber optic. For transmission rates, we have category 5, which is 1 gigabit per second. We have category 6, 10 gigabits per second. Category 8, 40 gigabits per second. For fiber optic, it is from 100 megabits per second to 100 gigabits per second. So we can see that when we are talking about fiber optics, even the cables that you use in connecting for fiber optics, it is extremely, the rate of their transmission is extremely high, as the case may be. The length could be 10 meters for up to 10 gigabits per second, or 30 meters for 40 gigabits per second. Then for fiber optics, 100 kilometer, as the case may be. Flexibility for twisted pair, it is very flexible, or it is fairly flexible for fiber optics. easy of installation, very easy. Fiber optics is extremely hard. It's extremely hard when you are trying to, fix the installation. Then the connector, we have RJ45. RJ45 is the one that most of us know. On the back of our system, there's a particular port where we can, maybe there's a wall jack in our office that we want to connect the internet. That cable that you insert at the back is what we call RJ45. So for the fiber optic, we have special SC or ST or other kind of connector. Interference, we have is susceptible. Therefore, fiber optic, it is not susceptible. The overall cost, fiber optic is extremely expensive, while the other one is not. And we can see most of this information as the case may be. I'm actually trying to round up so that we can go for our break and resume by one. So wireless network connection, we have an idea of what wireless connection is. On your phone, you can connect wirelessly without, having a wire. You can, be searching for information from every aspect of the globe while you are seated in a particular location. So wireless connection, wireless network connection really enables that. And for wireless LAN, this is more talking about the wireless local area network. And there's a concept in which we have as Institute of Electrical Engineering, I've forgotten the last E, IEEE. There's a particular code which we have 802.11, and some of the things that falls under this category are our Bluetooth, our infrared, most of this connection that we use to. Yes, electrical and electronic engineers. Thank you very much, Mr. Alan. So, our wireless LAN falls between the Bluetooth, the infrared. I probably want to exchange information from different computers or from different persons to another. But most recently, nobody is using Bluetooth or infrared again. At some point, Xender was in vogue, Xender. But I don't know if Xender is still very much used now. Maybe there are some other tools now that we are making use of that enables us to gain access to sharing information as the case may be on the faster level. So we can see generationally, we can see Wi-Fi, we can see first of all from 1999 for the frequency is 5 gig. 1999 also we have the one for 2.4 gig, different standard for the 802.11 as spoken about the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. They are standard there. So for our Bluetooth, we all know our Bluetooth adapter, especially for some of us that are making use of Bluetooth mouse. It looks more like this device here, not the coin. It's not the coin we are talking about. We are looking at the other device. You just connect it to your device and it creates a Bluetooth connection between the mouse itself and your system, as the case may be. So it's more like wireless personal area network, as the case may be. So, and most of our devices, whether our phones or gadgets, they make use of, they have these capabilities within them, these Bluetooth capabilities, to the extent that even our keyboard, our headsets, smartphones, speakers, as the case may be, they all have these capabilities. So infrared, this is actually one of the oldest technology that anytime you want to share an information, you have to bring your devices close together. I'm sure we don't do that again. The world has really migrated away from infrared, communication or exchanging of information. We have really gone far from that. So this is more like a wave that has been around, that it entails, bringing those two different devices that has the same infrared functionality, bringing them together and doing some connection before we can share certain information between the two devices. So I think that brings us to the end of this particular morning class. I will appreciate we go for break and we come back. Probably I will crave the indulgence of Mr. James. I've taken about 15 minutes of our time. I don't know if that can be added to the break time. I'll crave your indulgence to please, if you can help us to add that time, because we actually
All right.
started a bit later too. So please help us with that.
All right. Thank you very much, Damilare. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, this is only but the first part of today's class. I mean, there is the other part of the same class after our break. So we're going on break now, and then we'll be coming back from break exactly. Okay, let's do 1:10. However, if we're going to have that 10 minutes, then Damilari has to be very fast. Coming back from break, he has to be very fast with the slides because we still have a lot of other things to cover, right? But however, before we go on break, I just want to say this. If you on the community that was created some days back, a link to the assessment was pasted there, and I believe many of us have seen it. Please, in case we are having challenges or issues with accessing the assessment, like the link and then writing the assessment, please let us know. Let us know. Do a private chat so that do a private chat with any of the numbers that are admins on the group so that we can attend to that as soon as possible. We all need to take the assessment. Very, very important. All right. So thank you very much. I want us to go on break now. I'll be coming back exactly 1:10 max. So please let's have our breaks now.
So we would like to let me share my screen now so we can, just a second. Okay. All right. So I believe we can all see my screen. Please, if you can see it, let me see a thumb up or a show of hand to show that we can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Right. That's perfect. That's perfect. So we had about 4 sessions that we are supposed to treat today. We have treated the first two. One of them is database, and one of them is also on various connections that we have. Connections, maybe the likes of Bluetooth connection, infrared connection, fiber connection, and different types of connection like that. And we're able also to establish some fundamentals, conversations around database that talks about the table, the schema, relational database, talks about database management system itself. So we're able to speak briefly on those concepts. As I said, it would be a good thing if we can all go back and do much research or much more research on each of those concepts so that our understanding of them can be broadened from what we have learned today. So the third conversation we are looking at is understanding network connectivity essential. So we want to, have an understanding of various, components of the network itself. Like if we're coming up, because most of the time you have been hearing the concept network, 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 network. So what are the components? What are the networking devices that makes up the network itself that, one can connect together that really brings about the network itself. So firstly, we want to look at modems. So these are used to connect to a network via telephone lines, and they convert digital signals from a system or computer into analog signals. that can be transmitted over phone lines and back again. So modems are, example of modems. I'm sure most of us will have maybe some ISPs or service providers, internet service providers that we have around that sells their own individual modems that helps us to connect over to the internet, as the case may be. Then also we have switch. So switch is a network connectivity device which sits at the center point of most networks in for organization. Now, for every organization, maybe banks, that handles or that have their own internal network themselves. Now they tend to come up with different devices to build this network. The switch is the central part of them, and one of the functions of the switch is it helps to uh, identify different ports, as the case may be, and maybe there are some communication that we are trying to do to a particular port. Uh, so it tends to send that information to that particular port, and it does not mix information up. So we have similar types of the hub, of the switch, which is the hub. So hub is more like it's not as efficient or as good as the switches. What the hub does is it can carry, it can mix those informations, or probably it passes traffic along. It passes traffic along, well, while you are trying to maybe you connected the switch or you connected the hub to some other devices. So it's all it do is it passes the traffic. But for the switches, it does beyond that. So it examines, so many things, incoming data packets. It forward it also to the right port, and only to that port only. So it means like if you connected a device now to your if you connect the device now to your switches, now the set of packets or data packets that is supposed to be accessed from the switch to that particular device are the only ones that that device will have. That's what it's trying to say, that the switch is precise in its own activities. And then you see, most of us, we have seen the picture of the switch before. So this is what the switch look like. So this is more like an 8-port switch. So if you say 8 ports, aside from the console, if we look at the diagram, aside from the console, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 ports. So aside from the console and this other one here on this edge, we have 8 different ports, and each of the ports we can use it to connect to some devices. Maybe, for instance, we connected from the router, and we want everyone to gain access to or probably there's a connection from the router to this particular switch, and we want everyone to gain access to the router or some portion of the router. Now, it means that each of these ports will be configured in the aspect of the router that we need to get. Now, if, for instance, we say the router has in its capacity, there are so many things that exist within the router, maybe about 8 different things, and you don't want 8 of the things to be on each port. So each port will now be configured to meet each requirement that is in the router. So that's what the port does. And whatever you configured on each port is what it is going to do. It is not going to mix the configuration of another port with itself. So it means that every port has their own different configuration, or as the case may be, has their own different approach to how you configure whatever activities they are supposed to carry out. The access points. So this is any point that allows a user onto a network. So it's more like mostly we talked about access points when it comes to wireless, trying to gain access to wireless environments. So it may connect to other wireless access points or wireless routers, but eventually they connect back to a wired connection with the rest of the network. So if we are saying wireless or access points, wireless access points, they are more like wireless routers, and they provide central connectivities like wireless routers, but they don't have nearly as many features as that. So access point is more like, in most of the organization, they are probably they might have configured their environment in such a way that they have a wired access point. Maybe for instance, there's a wall jack, there's a jack on the wall where if you connect to it, you can get access to the network of the organization. And some organization, they do it in such a way that they they can logically do it in form of VLANs. They can logically do it in form of VLANs to just make sure that, okay, maybe there are different floors in the building, and they just configure those VLANs so that each person's or each floors can gain access to, or they have their own respective access point where they can gain access to the same resource that the organization is feeding on, which is from the network itself. So access points can be in that range, as the case may be. And most of the time too, maybe we have gone to an organization where each department, they are feeding on a particular network, but then the individual department has their own separate network. You might go to a particular company, ABC now, and you see the IT department, you see ABC IT departments, and you see ABC finance departments, you see ABC logistic departments. Each of those departments, they have their own, but then they all feed from a centralized point. So the access points to, so they all connect, or those different access points all connected from the same source, which is from the network of the organization. But then the point or access point was just created so that everyone within that location can gain access to that resource, as the case may be. Then a router is highly intelligent network connectivity device that connects multiple networks type to each other. It means that if, for instance, now let me use a layman understanding where all of us will understand what a router does. Now, we understand that we might have a base station. In short, for me, where I am now, to communicate with every one of you, wherever you are now, there are series of routers that are connected. Now, if there is a particular network connection, and all of us were in a singular place and we are feeding on that network, then there is no need for a router. It means that everything that we need is within that confinement of that network. But the moments where we are all situated in different locations, for us to still maintain that connection, for us to still have that kind of connection together, there are a series of networks that has been created. It means in each of our geographical location, there are networks that exist there. So it is based on the routers of routers. Now it's more like the way maybe I'm in Lagos, Nigeria, and I want to communicate with somebody in Maiduguri in the northern part of the country. Now, for the area that I am, there's a certain level in which the network can really function. So migrating from that location, there is a router to connect to another place. Now, so there is a continuum in various routers that helps to connect until it gets to that particular location. So that's the essence of router. Router kind of bring different networks together, or different configured networks. They bring them together as one, and that's why one of the things that made it easier for all of us to be in this particular location is some of us might be using MTN, some of us might be using different ISP, as the case may be. But then there are interconnection between the router, or there are routers that serve as interconnection between the various networks that we are making use of, that enables us to be on this call at this time T, and I am speaking, and we can hear me live and direct. So routers is actually what enables that to be done. Routers is what enables that to be done. So example of what I just explained, is sample of a network with routers and switches is we have you can see this network diagram. We have a router on this side, this router here. Oh, sorry. So we have this router here. This router here, it connects to the internet. So for every of these resources here, these switches, for every of them to gain access to the internet, this router enables them to gain access. It's more like, now, the concept behind internet, because sometimes we all feel internet is an abstract thing. The internet also could be a connection between, different switches, routers, and systems like this. Now, it might be that this same router that we have here connects and it's formed a kind of, structure like this also somewhere. And the connection might be continuous like that. But then the router brings that, it enables that communication to be smooth, especially when they are not within the same network. And you can see that from the router, it passes to this switch, and this switch is feeding two different switch. So in actual sense, we can call this switch uh, the core switch. For instance, we can call this particular switch here that feeds directly to the router the core switch, and we can call this aggregated switch. So core switch in the sense that this is the switch that feeds directly from the router, and aggregated switch in terms of these two is the one that feeds the systems or probably the devices that we are making use of. Now we can see that all of these devices, whether for the laptop, whether from the desktop, whether from the printer or whichever devices that are connected, now they all feed from a particular source. They all feed from a particular source. It means that this printer now could be a kind of printer that we can, a digitized printer that we can print online. Yes, a printer that we can, maybe it's an IP enabled printer. It's not just going to be a normal printer, because most of the time, normal printer, once you send information to them and you just print it out. So it might be an IP enabled printer that is connected to the switch. And the essence of this connection is every system that is connected to this particular switch, they have access to this printer. They can send information from their system that they want to print, and this printer will pick it up and it will be printed. So that's what that explains. And this is an example of a wireless router. I'm sure some of us that make use of either MTN, different networks like that, we can see that this is an example of a wireless router that we make use of. The firewall. Firewalls are, they are more like a form of security that we have for our devices to ensure that, because for every devices that we have, networking device, whether from the from the switches or from the routers, most of them, there are certain configurations that is being done on them. There are certain activities that each of them are supposed to perform to form the network itself. So one of the work or the function of the firewall itself is to make sure that certain permissions or denial are being done with regards to whether the ports or whether the protocols. Now, remember what I said, whether the ports or the protocols. Now, for ports, it's more like for, if we look at this particular diagram that I showed us initially, now we can see that we have 8 different ports. We have about 10 different ports here. One of them is console, and one of them might be used for connection, maybe to the router. But then we have 8 different ports, and each of the ports will be used for different purposes. Now, for the firewall makes sure that every access to either the router or either the switch is restricted according to what exactly has been defined, as the case may be, according to what exactly has been defined. Yeah, so according to what exactly has been defined. And there are, 2 types of firewall. So there's something we call access control list. Access control list, it means that now when we are configuring the firewall, or when we are configuring the switches or the routers, now it's not everyone that is supposed to know exactly what those things are configured to do. So there's something that we call access control list. It means that how you gain or how you gain access to several things, because each of the ports or the protocols, they have certain responsibilities that they are trying to do, which I will show us something afterwards that we explain different ports that we can have, or different uh, protocols also that we can have, that the firewall really help us to streamline access to these various controls, these various protocols or ports, as the case may be. So it serves as a rule. There are rules that are in place that the firewall help us to configure, whether to deny or by default. We tend to deny, or then we tend to allow services that are important for the sake of the business to be permitted. Now, there are some tools when it comes to there are some tools that one can make use of when it comes to reconnaissance or ethical hacking. Really help us to understand the ports that has been denied or ports that have been allowed during the context of a firewall. I don't know if anyone has. Yes, they are RJ45. They are RJ45. So I don't know if anyone has any IP address. Now, it's not just IP address, maybe IP address for some known organization that's no, okay. Let me stop there. Let me stop there so that it won't look like we are trying to gain entrance into another organization that we have nothing about. Okay, let me see if I can do something. Let me see if I can do something. Just a minute. Okay. 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 So what I wanted to do, I need to take permission from Transformation College before I do it, but maybe subsequent times, if we have the opportunity, we'll look at it. So what I wanted to do initially is to use a particular tool to, get certain information from Transformation College website. And, we pull that information and we see exactly the level of security that has been done with regards to network, with regards to firewall, for instance. There's something we called WAF, Web Application Firewall. So we might not have a physical firewall that we have with regards to hosting the website, but it might be a WAF that is being used. So that tool will just pull out if there are actual vulnerabilities within that website with regards to security. Then we look at that, and it's something that we look out for, and we try to fix those vulnerabilities so that it doesn't get to the wrong hand before they can manipulate it negatively. So there are two types of firewall. It could be network-based or host-based. For network-based, is designed to protect the whole network of computers and almost in hardware solution. They come most times in hardware solution. Sometimes also they come in software. But host-based firewalls protect only one particular computer and are almost always software solution. So it's more like for every laptop that every one of us have, it is based on host-based firewall, because your system has a particular firewall. If we can go into your system and you check firewall configuration there, it will tell you that, okay, yes, there's a private network, that probably the firewall configuration is intact. It will make you understand that. Therefore, network based, it's more like we have a box, and one of the firewalls that one can use could be Sophos firewall, could be Huawei firewall, could be FortiGate from Fortinet. So many of them, that could come in form of hardware solutions with software on them. They are hardware solutions, but they have software on them, which you can centrally manage those activities, that comes within the network at large. So networking protocols now. Protocols are a lot more like human language, more like a particular, ways in which we communicate, or probably within systems or network communicates within themselves. So technically speaking, it's a set of rules that govern communication within the network. And the most popular ones that we know about is TCP and IP, transmission control protocol, and internet protocol. These are the most, used, or the most heard of protocols, as the case may be. There's the most protocols, as the case may be, and there are various models. There's something we call DoD, which is Department of Defense model. So if we say Department of Defense, it's more like, most of these concepts were originated from the United States, when they are, because they have a department that they call Department of Defense, where they, come up with most of all of these terminologies, which was developed in 1970s, while trying to come up with theoretical networking models. And they stumble upon TCP and IP, which is structured in such a way to help, structured in about 4 different categories to help understand various levels to which these protocols can really suffice. It can come within our processing or in our application, to come from host to host, whether we are trying to do some connection from host to host, or whether from our internet or from our network access itself. So we can see from the application or process, we have IMAP, which stands for IMAP stands for Internet. Sorry, a minute. Internet Message Access Protocol. So it talks about Internet Message Access Protocol. And one of the things that it does is it allows users to create folders or assign messages to folders, as a excuse me, as the case may be. And also, users can obtain just a message header, that are useful in low bandwidth connection with regards to the IMAP. Then we also have FTP. We have FTP also, which is File Transfer Protocol. We have FTP, File Transfer Protocol, which is help in transferring of files. It also helps to ensure that those files are delivered, their delivery is guaranteed. It also ensures that while we are transferring files, that it is guaranteed. So for the host to host, we have TCP and UDP. We have TCP and the UDP. TCP talks about transmission control protocols, and these are one of the things that enables or orientates connection. These protocols is the one that really attests that there is a connection between maybe multiple devices or the application itself. It shows that from one particular host to the other, it entails that a connection has been established from both different hosts. Then also it entails error checks or reporting. It also entails acknowledgement. There's something that we call three-way handshake in networking. That because of the three-way handshake, it means that by the time a request is being sent, that the one aspect of the three-way handshake is the message is being sent. Because some of us that we study CCNA, yeah, that particular conversation will be held. It's a part where the message will be requested or message will be sent, and that's one way of the communication. Another part we'll talk about the acknowledgements of that particular request or information. Then the sync also. There will be a sync that shows that the connection has been established. So it's a three-way handshake that we call from the TCP, as the case may be. Then for the UDP, it talks about user datagram protocol, and this also ensures error checks, but it does not involve reporting, and there's no point of acknowledgement for this particular one. And also, it does the functionality of if there is no connection. The other one, if a connection has been established, we understand that is from the TCP. But then, if there is no connection, we understand it is coming from the angle of the UDP. And for our internet, we have IP, which is the internet protocol itself. We have our IP. Now we know that every device has their own IP. For you to communicate with any device, or for you to communicate over the internet, you are going to make use of your internet protocol, as the case may be, your IP address. And this address is a unique address that sometimes could be static, but then sometimes is most time dynamic. And dynamic in the sense that over a range of time, it is going to be changing. But then the particular device might have a particular address, which is their MAC address. Then we have a particular address, which is their own identified MAC address, just like the way some of us, we have our name. Your name could be like your MAC address. But then the names that you have, for instance, on social media, some people might choose not to use their real name on social media. Somebody might be bearing Kemi, which is Kemi, as their original name. But then on social media, they can fine-tune it to Kemmy. So we can understand that it's those name changes from different platforms, but then they have an original name as well. So that's explain the concepts behind MAC address and IP address. So MAC address is your original name. The IP address is the address you use in connection to various platforms or various entities, as the case may be, especially when it is dynamic in nature. So for the network, we can see a particular technology that we mentioned the other time, which is 802.11. Then we have the likes of the infrared. We have the likes of the infrared. We have the likes of the Bluetooth. We have the likes of so many of those connection, fiber connection. We have cable connection. Most of those connections like that. So before you can gain access to a network, you are going to go through either of these routes to gain access to the network as it is. So understanding IP address. Now, for our IP address, most of us would have known that our IP address is more like we have maybe it is 192.168.10.56 and things like that. Now, there's something that we know that an IP address is more like a 32-bit hierarchical address. When we say 32 bits, now understand that your computer, the understanding that the computer has is in binary. Is in binary. Binary in the sense that it understands zeros and ones. Zeros and ones. So it means that for every for IP address now, it needs to have 32-bit character. So 32. So in that 32, we structured it into 4 different aspects. So that means every one of them is supposed to have 8 bits. 8 bits for each aspect of the IP address. Eight different bits, and these bits also we can some of them could be we can subdivide the whole address into 2. Maybe some of them are host based and some of them are network based, as the case may be. Now, had it been it's a physical class, I would have perform an experiment or probably some calculation on how we calculate our subnetting when it comes to our IP address or broadcast mask. All those conversations would have dive into all of those things. But then we can individually go through those this material and try to look out for videos also that will really help us to individually understand how all of these things are in play. So for each of the, we have decimal points also, dotted points. Maybe we have 192.168.10.55 and things like that. Now, this 192, it means that the 192 is in base 10. And most of us, we have done binary conversion from base 10 to base 2. So it's more like when you want to convert from base 10 to base 2, we are going to divide by 2. And when you divide by 2, then the remainder, if you divide, maybe let's say 3 now, you want to divide 3 by 2. You say 3 divided by 2, 2 divided by 3 is 1, remainder 1, right? Then 2 divided by 2, it is 0, remainder, sorry, it is 1, remainder 0. Then 2 divided by 1 is 0, remainder 1. Then when you draw the arrow up, so it will give you 101 base 2. That will give you 3. That is what you have as 3 in base 10 is the same thing as 101 base in base 2. So you are now going to convert all of this, this 192 now, you convert it to base 10. Is in base 10 already, you convert it to base 2. So when you convert it to base 2, the numbers you have, you are going to have it, separate. And there's something also that we call subnet mask, which normally it is this value from 192 that we have here. It is picked from a range of value from 255.255.255.255, and there are different classes which I might not really dive into. Different classes. We have class A, class B, class C, and we have classless interdomain routing. Those conversations we can those really help us to understand how IP addresses are formed, and it also helps us to understand it helps us to understand various subnet masks or IP range. For instance, somebody might come up with an IP address and say 192.168/5/0 .5.0, and now plus /32. They are now asking you to find the subnet mask. So those conversations are how we come about to understand the IP addressing, the subnet mask, and all of those conversations around it. So each IP address is made of 2 components: the network ID or the host ID, and the network portion of the address always comes before the host. So sometimes, I said we have 32 bits. So sometimes the first 8 bits, the first 8 bits could be the one that is talking about the network, and the rest of the rest bits, that's the 24 bits that are remaining, are the one handling the host. Or sometimes it could be interchangeable like that. So it depends on how exactly the network itself has been configured. Then certain rules that one needs to put into consideration when working with IP address. You understand that all host address on a network must be unique. All host addresses must be unique. Then on a routed network, such as internet, all network addresses must be unique as well. Then neither the network ID nor the host ID can be set to all zeros. A host ID portion of all zeros means this network. So neither the ID or network ID nor the host ID can be set to all ones. That means a host ID portion of all ones means all hosts on this network. So what this is making us to understand is if we set neither our network ID or host ID to be all zeros, it means that this particular network, like it's really referring to that particular network. Then if we say neither the network ID nor the host ID can be set to all ones, that means that all hosts on this network, and this is commonly used for broadcast address, as the case may be. So these are examples of protocols or common port numbers with their protocols. So if we have a protocol which is HTTP, can somebody tell me what HTTP means? HTTP, what does it mean? HTTP. Can someone help us on the, thank you very much, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Thank you, Timmy. Hypertext Transfer Protocol, that's what it means. And the services that protocol renders is web browsing, but then it is not the secure part of it. And the port number is 80. But the secure part of it is the HTTPS, which with the port number is 443. For transmission file transfer, FTP, we have two different ports, which is 20 and 21. And so for sending emails, we have SMTP, we have 25. Then for email receiving, we have two of them, which is POP, which is with port number 110, and email and IMAP 4, also with port number 143. Then quick dive into IPv6. So IPv4 was originally developed in 1873. Considering how fast technology evolves, there are few problems with IPv4. And one of them is that you run out of available network. And the other is that TCP can be somewhat tricky to configure. So a new version, which is IPv6, is now in vogue now. So instead of having the 32 bits, now we understand that for the IP address that we have now, so when you hear IPv4, they are talking about the normal IP address that we know of. So IPv6, IPv6 is more like it has 128 bits address, different from what we have initially for our IPv4, as the case may be. So IPv6 includes standard features, many optionals, but useful IPv4 ones. And so this diagram shows a sample output from ipconfig, that shows various information from the IPv4, the subnet mask, MAC address, label, or IPv6 address, as the case may be. So let me do this. Let me do this on my system here. I don't know. Some of us, we can open to command prompts. Can we open command prompt from our system? Sorry, can you see my system here? Please, what are you saying? Are you seeing the command prompt?
Yes, please, yes.
Okay, all right. So from the command prompt, we just ipconfig /all. So the command prompt we use is ipconfig/all. Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. So here now we can see various information about my system. You can see the host name, you can see the primary DNS suffix, you can see IP routing enabled, even the adapter for the Ethernet. You can see information around that. The wireless LAN, you can see information about it. If we have multiple there, here we're having about 2 different wireless LAN adapter here, and various informations as well are displayed here. You can see the Wi-Fi, information about my Wi-Fi, though it's confidential information, but then you can see that information here as well. You can see the IPv4 address, you can see the subnet mask, you can see the day in which the lease obtained, the lease expired, default gateway, DHCP server. You can see the version 6 as well. You can see so many information here, DNS servers as well. You can see those information here. So those are the things that we tend to look at when we are trying to see what component our system really does have. Okay, so DHCP and DNS. So these are two critical services that really help us to be aware of our dynamic host, that really help us to be aware of conversation that happens within the TCP or IP services. And one of them is dynamic host configuration protocol, and we have domain name system. Then both of them are typically installed on servers. They both provide key functionalities to network clients. DHCP servers are configured to provide IP configurations information automatically to clients. So it means that you don't need to manually be installing or probably be putting the IP address. So it helps to automatically, configure that information there. And the following configuration, which it provides also are the IP address, the subnet mask, the default gateway, DNS service, server address, as the case may be. Then we look at also local network storage types. Local network storage types, which we have two of them. One of them is file server, which is a server computer that is specialized to store user file. So file server is more like what we use to store our user file, and it can be dedicated or it can be on a dedicated or non-dedicated server, as the case may be. So it can have multiple optical drives. Sometimes it depends on how the organization that is making use of these servers deem fit. So the primary hardware requirement for this kind of server is probably a lot of hard drive space. When we have multiple space of hard drive, then we can make use of them as a file server. Then other type of servers that we have is a network attached storage. A network attached storage device takes hard drive storage, drive it to the next level. Then it helps it will help connect to a PC through a USB port, but that is actually primarily one of the things that it does. It helps to do that kind of connection, and it help also to ensure that most of whatever that we are saving on those devices are kept in such a way that it is free from unauthorized access to that particular device. So cloud storage service. Most of us, we know about Azure, we know about AWS, and probably one of the services that they provide is maybe you want to get storage, or you want to for instance, let's imagine there's a Dropbox, maybe Dropbox also, or maybe even our Google, that gives us some gigabytes of space for us to keep our information, for us to store information on the cloud. Some of them could be paid for, and some of them are by default free. So those are the things we look out for when it comes to cloud storage services. And that's why I said for Dropbox, the free version they gave is about 2 gigabytes, and the premium version of it is about 3 terabytes, which cost about $200. Then for Apple iCloud, we have different range for different prices. Likewise, Box or Microsoft OneDrive, which you also call 365, and then for Google Drive as well. They have their various price attached to them. And for the Google Drive, you can see most of us will make use of Google Drive. You can see from when you open your email address, you will always see under various applications that you have there. The drive will be one of those things that you see. And it will also tell you the space that you've used so far. And then we advise, if the space you've used so far is getting exhausted, we advise for you to procure a paid version of the space, so that you can have multiple space for you to make use of, as the case may be. And also, one can share most of the information that you have on your drive by just maybe you create a link and you add people, or you put their email address, that it's only those things that you are set, or you allow them to gain access to, that they can do. It might be that you just want them to read those informations only, that they can't download, they can't alter any information to affect the integrity of what you have there. So everything is based on what you have configured them to see, and that is what they are going to see on that platform. So the last part of this conversation is setting up a small wireless network, setting up a small wireless network. So we want to see how do we come up with Wi-Fi connection. You want to, create a Wi-Fi, you want to have a Wi-Fi connection set up. How exactly do we tend to, achieve that activity, as the case may be? And we have seen various things that we listed here, that are basic things that we can do when it comes to, setting up our Wi-Fi and all those things. Now it means that for some of us, there are some myths that I actually want to help us break through this conversation. When you purchase your Wi-Fi, it shows that probably the username that you have on the Wi-Fi, or probably to access that device, uh, we all know the admin username, admin password, and you go into that space and you manage whatever thing that you have on the Wi-Fi itself, so that you know how many people are gaining access, or how many people you are granting access into that Wi-Fi environment. And there are so many things also in terms of security mechanism, in terms of security passphrase that one needs to do, or what exactly one needs to enable, as the case may be. You can see that you need to change the administrative username and password to a stronger password that you alone knows. It's more like if your firewall name now, or if your Wi-Fi name is MTN 4G 123. Now it's predictable. It's something that when someone can see that particular SSID, we call it SSID. Once they can see the SSID, one way or the other, they will know that this network exists, and there are tools that can really help to crack, you know, password of known SSIDs like that. Now it might take time, but then I can tell you that those tools are effective. It will take time, but they can crack those passwords, as the case may be. So we try as much as possible to change the administrator's name, the username, and the password, whether from the initial part when you bought the product, or even when you get to that gaining access to virtually to that platform where you manage what exactly go on within your router. Then you enable either WPA3 or WPA2 personal, or the highest level of security the router supports. And the reason why you are enabling this security measure is to ensure that you are in control of whatever thing that goes on within your router. That it's not that someone else is hijacking, or taking over the control of the security part of your Wi-Fi. Then choose a high quality security passphrase. That means that the password that we are going to be using in all of this, the password should be something that we can't forget, and should be much more difficult. It shouldn't be a generic password that anyone can envisage and just decide that, okay, this is the password and we can hack into it. Then also from the clients, we select WP3 or security that matches your router setting, and enter the security passphrase to connect. Then, for example, to set up so we are supposed to use this. I was trying to log into this particular Wi-Fi, but it did not grant me the access of setting up the connection. So I would love to use my own Wi-Fi. But then, for confidentiality sake, I will thank that there are pictures here that really explains most of what I would have loved to talk about. So instead of going into my Wi-Fi, I can explain with this. And I'm sure most of us understand what we are discussing here. But then if there's any question, please feel free to always speak, so that we can always come back and address whatever the questions might be. So this is more like a normal page where we see Wi-Fi connection, where we see those connection, and we see exactly so many things that have been written there. We see the network status, we see device list. It means that for how many devices that are connected to the Wi-Fi, it shows the list here, and it shows guest access to. If there are guests that are connecting to the Wi-Fi, it shows the password that you can log into. It shows the Wi-Fi, at least from the broadcast SSID. They will see it from here. Then also it shows parental control. Maybe the Wi-Fi is being used from home, and we want to see that, okay, if children are getting access to this Wi-Fi, we want to ensure that they don't tend to download, or they don't get to make use of websites that are not good for them, and maybe adult rated websites, and we tend to put in some controls on them. So here it is, the parental control are off, but normally it is supposed to be on, so that in that regard we can control every activities that is being done on that particular tool. And on the high level side, there is a particular tool that one can use to monitor different packets, especially if we have understood the concept behind the OSI model. And the OSI model talks about the physical layer, the data link, and up to the session layer, the application layer, and all of those layers like that. It's explained at every point in time, certain conversations that we can have. Maybe, for instance, someone is gaining access to our Wi-Fi, and through that application, we can check exactly the addresses that they are visiting, the source address, the destination. We can see various things that they are doing with regards to that network. We can always see it and monitor it, and we can actually block every activities that they want to carry out too on that platform, as the case may be. Then changing SSID, it's more like we change the username that we have there already, the SSID, we change that information, and yeah, we change that information. That's pretty much changing of the SSID. So I'll show us an example. Okay, this is an example of what we are talking about. So in this Wi-Fi setting now, we are seeing so many informations that are here. The Wi-Fi name could be, okay, the Wi-Fi name is Dr. Net. I'm sure the name initially was not this, but then it has to be configured to this, so that it will be the one that the owner really wants to be used. So that's SSID will be changed. So that means anyone who sees this particular Wi-Fi will see Dr. Net as the owner of that Wi-Fi. So your Wi-Fi that you are making use of, which is MTN underscore 4G, all those things, you can change it and have a particular name attached to it too, so that you can have the SSID can be displayed in that format. And sometimes too, I advise that people should not broadcast their SSID, because a broadcasted SSID is more like you're telling everybody that yes, there's a Wi-Fi around, and it will enable people to want to try to log into that Wi-Fi, as the case may be. So changing administrative name, so it means that keeping administrator name and password away from users or potential attackers is of importance. And username should be difficult to guess and not linked to your name or other user account names you have. And the password also should be changed in that light too. So you can see admin password should be changed. It should be updated every time. Now, most of the time, people do their password, especially when it comes to maybe their social media or any password, as the case may be. You leave it as a one-time password. Now, for information security reasons, it's not advisable for you to leave your password. So if it is possible for you to change your password almost every 3 weeks or almost every month. Now, it's based because if someone has had a grip of your account and they know the password, and eventually you change the password, definitely those kind of persons are not supposed to now still have access to it. So they have to request. Now, if it is the account you want them to have access to, you can share the new password. But then for cyber security reasons or for information security reasons, it's always advisable to change our password almost every 3 weeks or even a month, if need be. You're supposed to change it within that time frame. Then connecting clients to the network. So To join the network, clients will need to find or manually enter the SSID. Now, if the SSID has been blocked, that is when they will manually connect it. But then if it is still broadcasted, definitely once their device, their Wi-Fi is open, they can see the SSID. And then they need to enter the appropriate passphrase, maybe the password that you've set that, okay, before they can get access, this is the password that they need to make use of, as the case may be. So those need to be in place before they can connect to the network. So it's more like this now. So for this particular device, we have the speed of the network is 78 megabits per second, and the level of security that has been done is WPA or WPA2 personal. And so WPA2 personal most of the time is the one that is adopted for maybe for personal use of, when you're trying to make use of the Wi-Fi for personal use. That's the security approach that is being mostly adopted for that. Then we see open portals. The growth of wireless systems have created several opportunities for attackers. These systems are widely new and they are well-established communication mechanisms, and they are easily intercepted. As I mentioned the other time, if your SSID is being broadcasted, definitely it enables attackers to gain attention into your network, to want to see that, okay, maybe they can log in, or they do some brute force attack or dictionary attack, as the case may be, and they keep finding out information on how they can really gain access to your uh, Wi-Fi environment. So that's why it's important that that level of security, we should put them in place when we are, doing some configuration on our wireless router. So for web talked about wired equivalent protocol, and this more like it encrypts data to provide data security. It encrypts data to provide data security, and it also makes use of static keys in forms of password. And those keys are commonly maybe 10, 26, or 58 hexadecimal characters long. So it is vulnerable because of the nature of static keys and weakness in the encryption algorithm. It is probably one of the weakest form of security within the wireless security aspect. So that's why most of the time people are not advised to really make use of the wired equivalent protocol. Then for the WPA, which is Wi-Fi protected access, is an improvement on the web. It was first available in 1999, as a case may be. So it really helps, or it's really introduces message integrity checking. Then also it was introduced to the market some while ago, and its purpose is to be like a temporary solution to wireless security in place of the web itself. So it's more like a temporary solution when it was created to avert the errors that web really possess. So for WPA2, it implements all the requirements or required elements of the 802.11i security standard. And you remember when we talked about the 802, it's more is diving into various conversation around the Bluetooth or infrared, those kind of connections that we have there, as case may be. So, and the protocols that it makes use of is counter mode EBC MAC protocol, which is based on AES. So for some of us that are into encryption or cryptography, we understand AES, we understand Advanced Encryption Standard, AES security algorithm. So the WPA2 is actually, tilting towards that kind of algorithm, and it really helps to safeguard level of encryption especially for unauthorized access into such Wi-Fi environments. And it provides strong encryption and data protection. And so sometimes when you conduct brute force attack on the password, sometimes it can be vulnerable or it can be susceptible to attack, as the case may be. So it's more important that when one is setting up this kind of configuration or this kind of security for the wireless device, we should ensure that so many things are being considered. Then WPA3 is more like the much more advanced compared to WPA2. So it's an improvement for the WPA2, and it's really it provides more secure method called the simultaneous authentication of equals, which we also call Dragonfly Key Exchange, in making sure that the level of security or the unique security codes that it generates every time are effective, and they prefer uh, a great connection between devices and several levels of authentications also while trying to log in into those router, rather than using just a simple passcode or passphrase at every point in time. So it's more like an additional layer of security compared to the WPA2, as the case may be. So it supports security keys of 128 bits and 256 bits in length. 128 bits and 256 bits in length. So guest access. Guest access means that while you have while you have built up your wireless now, if your wireless, for instance, is connected to the to core applications within your organization, now you ensure that you create different level of access to, maybe you have guests that are coming into the office. Now, they must not be on the same network. And reason why is, if or no, I don't mean they must not be on the same network. So they must not be on the same VLANs. Now, why I said that is because if you create we have wireless devices that we are making use of in the organization, and straight down a visitor can connect directly to the same wireless that administer or that the network leverage on. Definitely they can find their way around the network itself, and gain access to critical information within the organization. So it's need for the organization to now create a guest access. It means that there's no way, or there's no link between the guest environment or the guest Wi-Fi to the network or the Wi-Fi being used general wise across departments or across anything, so that there won't be any link or any vulnerability within that space, as the case may be. And that's why you can see on that same Wi-Fi, there's a portion that talked about guest access. You allow guests to, access or gain access into the network, and we have the username and the password. Now, as a guest too, it's difficult or I will not advise that once you are in a public space, because some people love free Wi-Fi, they love free network, and they love free things, and sometimes free things could not be good sometimes. So when you see free Wi-Fi, or you are in a public bus, you are seeing free Wi-Fi, most of the time it could be a bait from attackers, because if you connect to them on the same network, I have series of tools once you and I were on the same network, I can use that tool to know exactly what you are doing. I can use that tool to spool information from your systems or from your phone. I can use that tool to see confidential information like your bank account, your password, and all of those things. So we should try as much as possible also to desist from gaining, making use of public Wi-Fi's, as the case may be. We should try to avoid that at all costs. And for DHCP, as I mentioned, so this router has it enabled, and you can see some of the configuration options. For the most part, you won't need to change any of this unless perhaps you want to allow more than a default of 50 clients onto your network. So what this means is maybe if you administer that it's only you have 50 or 100 people that you want them to connect to your Wi-Fi. So if, for instance, maybe you administer like 20 people to connect and about 25 people want to connect. Now, the first 20 people to connect are the one that will have access. And from this DHP server, it means that the IP address of those persons will try to log in into this Wi-Fi. So the DHP server will convert their IP address into recognizable address that is available on this particular device. Then the connection will be established. But for those that did not connect within that time frame, definitely they are not going to have access to that particular connectivity, except maybe the administrator of the Wi-Fi now decide to expand the number of people that should gain access, except that before such a person can really gain access to them. Firewall. So firewall with regards to the Wi-Fi firewall setting, so we can see several filtering that does for the organization. So it has both the firewall protection for the IPv4 and also the one for IPv6 protection as well. So it's enabled from there. And also, if you look at the DMZ talk about the demilitarized zone, because there are various zones that exist within our firewall. It could be the trusted zone, it could be untrusted zone, it could be demilitarized zone, as the case may be. So these zones are created so that we can understand, or we can safeguard the network itself from unauthorized access. It means that those, like the protocols or ports that falls under the trusted zone, those are the only ones that you can work on, or you can send in inbound traffic or outbound traffic into the network of the organization. So if anything does not fall within that threshold of what is set within the zones, whether demilitarized, trusted, or untrusted. Now, if anything is not set within there, we understand that those will not be permitted to gain access to the network, as the case may be. So this is the end of the class. I wouldn't know if we have any questions, any observation, anything that we want to point out, so that we can probably in the next 5 to 10 minutes, we can look at that together before we call it a day. Is there any question from anyone? Mr. James, are you there? Okay, what
Yes, I
device
am
can,
here. I
okay,
think you have a question in the chat
yeah, I can
box
see it.
already.
I can see it. I said, what device can we use to improve the range of internet? So your router is actually the ones that can help you the range of your internet. If you want to increase the range of your internet now, for instance, if you are in a space where you are making use of a uh, of a cabled network, and you want someone else to gain access to it. So through the use of a router, you can really help to router really is the one that helps to expand the range of internet routers. I don't know if I answered your question. Mr. Is it Ike Baton? Please go ahead.
Ebunfe, I don't know if you're still there. Has he answered the question you asked already? Okay.
If someone else
Okay.
is raising their hand, I don't know, Ike Baton, I don't know.
Right. Okay, I think I'm going to mute some persons so that they can ask questions.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so who is this person? Uh, okay.
All right. Thank you. I think the host muted all of us.
Oh,
But can I be heard?
Yes, yes, you can
so
be heard now. Just
All right. Thank you very much. The name is Isaac Batum. I would
okay.
like to ask a question regarding the guest account. So that's my first question. My first question is, though we can set up a guest account, isn't it on the same network? So if you were saying that we wish to prevent certain people maybe within the business from not getting access to certain resources they are not supposed to get, and we are setting up a guest account on the same network, wouldn't that be can't a guest find a way around to get access to resources? And also, when it comes to the SSID, can you give us, I mean, very practical examples why we should probably change the name of the default SSIDs that comes with the devices we buy? Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let me start from the last one you asked, SSID. So one of the reasons why practically I advise that people should change and not broadcast information about their SSID is simply because there was a time where I someone gained access to my Wi-Fi because I was using the normal password that you use, that is the admin and the admin username and the admin password, and I was using it to gain access to my Wi-Fi, and it was broadcasted. Now, when the person saw it, one way or the other, I think it's someone that I've given access to at some point. So the person leveraged on the existing access that was given before. Even after that access was given to the person, when the person finished using it, I yanked the person off. But one way or the other, there are certain things I did not do that the person eventually now was entering to the back door and was gaining access until I had to change some configurations. And one of them is, first of all, I have to block my SSID. Like, I restrict my SSID from being viewed. So when you don't see the SSID, at least it's not something that you can know. And for me as well, I I decide to change the SSID information, because if the SSID information the person used to have is 123, and I decide to change it to ABC, definitely when the person is seeing ABC, it will not be easy for them to think that this was the same Wi-Fi that they were having access to. So that's the reason why I advise most people to block or not broadcast your SSID, because it's more like something that you've exposed. Now, a vulnerability that you have not exposed cannot be exploited. Now, once a vulnerability exists and it has been exposed, definitely it's a one step ahead in terms of exploitation. So that's why you exposing your SSID is more like it's a vulnerable state itself. I'm speaking from a cybersecurity standpoint. It's a vulnerable state because you are giving people attention to look at your Wi-Fi, especially people that can crack Wi-Fi. And I can tell you categorically, there are tools that will help that cracks Wi-Fi in less than 30 minutes or 1 hour. They crack Wi-Fi that they are not even connected to one way or the other. So it's for it's just a security measure. It's not a must that you must do, but then it's something that from a cybersecurity standpoint, or probably if you are thinking from a risk-based approach, that you don't want to you are doing a risk-based approach on those Wi-Fi itself, because when we are conducting information security, the risk-based approach is based on the assets. So you look at that risk based on the assets, and you look at it that if my Wi-Fi uh, is being broadcasted, definitely it's going to now there's a difference between organizational and personal. Now, for personal, you can decide not to broadcast, but for organizational, you know that yes, it happens within this organization. And I'm sure that there are so many level of configurations that would have been done from the back end, whether because the Wi-Fi one way or the other will be connected to the firewall of the organization. And most of the organization we have intrusion detection system and intrusion prevention system. So if at any point someone is trying to log in into the Wi-Fi that is not configured, maybe the person is not supposed to log into that Wi-Fi, or probably the credentials of the person is not within what was configured within the Wi-Fi to gain access. Definitely, from the IDS, you can know that, or probably when you have SIM solution that help you to bring those information out, then you either quarantine or you block such activities at the same way. I don't know if I answered that second question. Did I answer the second question? Hello, can you hear me? All right, I can't hear you if you're speaking.
I don't know if that answers your question already, okay? Oh, let me unmute you. Sorry about that.
All right. Thank you very much. So,
Right.
that answers my question. But okay, I think the explanations you gave are in order. I think the other one has got to do with the guest account.
Yes. So for the guest accounts, what an organization needs to do is to, when we talk about the concept of VLANs, now everything might be on the same network, but the fact that you have built different VLANs, for the guest account, you are configuring it based on a different VLAN. So for every VLAN too, there are perimeter firewalls that will exist within that VLAN as well. So it's more like for that VLAN that you have created for guests, you have configured it in such a way that it will not move outside that perimeter. So that means every activities that is going to be going on within that connection will not move out of the VLAN. It will not. So that means anybody who is a staff in the organization that works in the department cannot use the guest VLAN to connect to something that maybe a particular aspect or maybe a core application in the organization. So that should have been configured. So, but the same network, when they use it for departmental, they can use it to connect to core applications. But if they are trying to use it from the guest aspect, because the VLAN has been configured in such a way that it will not, connect with the core application. So that can work. So Mr. Anyaku Joshua said, how can one block or stop broadcasting one's SSID on home network? So let me just show you quick one from here. Just a second. Okay, just a second. Let me. Oh, can we see my screen? Hello, can we see my screen?
Yes, very clear.
So from this platform now, if you are making use of the likes of MTN, for instance, you can block your SSID when you get to this place. It said network name, which is the SSID. It's telling me this is my name. But the SSID broadcast, it's either I enable it or I disable it. If I enable it, it means that everybody can see my SSID. Or if I disable it, it means that no one else can see it except me, or except the devices that have connected with the Wi-Fi or with the Wi-Fi, as the case may be. Is that question answered? Is there any other question before we call it a day?
Oh, I think somebody said you should take that again.
Somebody say I should take that again.
Yes, from the chat room, somebody said you can take that again. Alan Richmond.
Okay. Okay. So just let me share it again. So this portion talked about the SSID, whereas you can change your name. On this particular portal, I can decide to change the name to whatever name I want to change it to. But then I can decide to broadcast. So this broadcast talked about if I want everyone to see the network. The way it is now is disabled. No one else can see this network. Now, if you open your Wi-Fi, if we're in the same location and you're on your Wi-Fi, you cannot see this network. But the moment I enable it, you will see it. So if you want to block your SSID from being viewed from by anyone, once you get to this kind of portal, every Wi-Fi device should have this kind of configuration. And I was talking about firewall too the other time. So once you disable it, definitely it cannot be broadcasted. So I was talking about firewall too. You can see so many things that you can do with regards to firewall. You can do MAC address or IP or port filtering. You can enable it or you disable it from here. You can do port mapping, you can do port forwarding, URL filtering. Now, this URL filtering is more like if you have some certain URLs, maybe the Wi-Fi is for everybody in the house, and you have you have children that maybe you don't want them to go to an adult website, so you filter it by putting in the URL here, and once you apply, definitely it's kind of whenever anyone wants to connect with such URL, they won't have access to it. Then for demilitarize as well, demilitarize is more like an other higher level of settings that you want to do there. It's make sure that there are certain activities that you permit and certain activities that you do not permit at all. So you put all those things also into consideration, and you ensure that those rules are followed, to the last point, so that it doesn't get to a point where you are breached. Therefore, rate limiting, it means that you can decide that maybe the data usage you want to put some some restriction on yourself. Maybe you are the type that you have close to 1 terabyte and you want to do daily restriction, and you just want to ensure that these are the limits in which I make use of every time. So you can do that restriction as well. So that's basically what this all looks like. I hope we understand.
Okay, Damilare, someone is asking here, right? Someone is asking here if someone luckily searches the name or SSID, would it be found if it is in range? That is when you disable it here now and then someone needs to search for it. Would it be found or something else?
So the idea behind finding SSD, the idea behind finding the SSD location or things like that is if this has been disabled, if this has been disabled, now the person will not see anything about its availability or not. Now they can impute this information there. That will not tell you that it's in range. It will only show that the Wi-Fi is in range when you have the password also connected to it, and you input the password and you connect and you have a successful connection. That is what will tell you that this is in range. But the moment that you have imputed this SSID, it is not a license, or it's not a way to tell you that it's in range. It's until you are able to get a successful connection before you can know it's in range. But once it is enabled, you can see it clearly that this is actively in range and all those.
All right, thank you very much, Damilare. I believe, excuse me, I believe Damilare has done justice to that question, and I believe he has uh answered every other question. So I don't know if there are any other persons that want to ask any question before I display my screen. Any other question in the chat room? So if we do not have any other question, I want us all to appreciate Damilare in the chat room. Can we just give a round of applause? A round of applause for our lecturer today. Can the can we keep clapping? Let's let the clap come in. Let's appreciate our lecturer for the day. A round of applause, a round of applause. Can I have more applause in the chat room? More applause in the chat room. Yes, this is a one of the very good way we can appreciate our lecturer for today. Can we give a round of applause? Thank you, thank you, thank you very much, Damilare. Yes, we appreciate you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so very quickly, I just want us to, I want to roll out the announcement. Excuse me, the announcement once again. So I'm sharing my screen, and I believe you can all see my screen. Okay. Excuse me. So I want to believe we can all see my screen. Okay, so like I said earlier on, this we still have, although today is 2nd of November, so we still have other classes apart from today. And 9th of November, we still have one other class. 16th of November, we have class. 23rd of November, up until 30th of November. So let's all bear in mind that the class still continues next week, Saturday. Let's all have that in mind. And then the next year is that if you have not yet joined our WhatsApp community that was created some times ago, kindly I shared the link on the chat box already, and then you can also click on this link here. Kindly click on the link so that you can be part of the community. That's where informations will be passed across to us that cannot be passed in the class, right? So that is that about that. And then another thing is our registration fee. For as many of us that are yet to pay our registration fee, let's kindly do so and send the proof of payment to the link that we can all see on the screen. So for Nigerians, it is 5,000 Nigerian currency. For Ghanaians, it is 53 Ghanaian currency. And then for the Cameroonians, it is 2,000 Cameroon currency. And for those in Ghana, please, you can pay to this account, or you are to pay to this account that is on the screen. That is on the screen, right? And then so we say a very big thank you to everyone. More so, I also want to say this. I think some days ago, couple of days ago, a link was sent to the CompTIA Tech group for, I mean, the WhatsApp community, so that we can all have our assessment. So for as many of us that have not taken the assessment, let's click on the link, take the assessment and submit. It is very, very much important and imperative. So let's do that, please. For as many that are raising up their hand, please, I'm going to attend to that. Just hold on, right? So let's kindly attend to that. And lastly, a feedback link was sent to the chat box. Let's all click on the link, send a fill everything that needs to be filled there, and then submit the form so that we can get your feedbacks as to know where and how to improve on our learning skills and training skills, as the case may be. So I want to appreciate every one of us. Somebody is raising up his hand, so let me quickly attend to that. All right, so you can go ahead. I think you're raising up your
Can
hand.
you hear me?
Yes, yes, but your network is cracking.
Okay, I'm in the network today, but all thanks to you guys, at least from when I was able to join. I think it's an amazing class today. The reason that I raised my hand has nothing to do with our class today, but actually still on issue of network. Last Saturday class, at some point in time, I lost the network completely until the whole class was over. When I tried coming in repeatedly at the point it said class, the session is over. And within a week, I was able to observe that the
Cannot hear you clearly.
YouTube
We cannot
this
hear
was
you
uploaded.
clearly.
Can you?
Hello.
Hello.
The
Okay.
network is
Can you hear
so
me now?
bad. We can't hear you clearly.
Oh, hello.
It's cracking,
Hello.
right? It's cracking. We can barely hear you.
All right. All right. Let me see if I can
You can
type
do
it
that in
out.
chat.
Yeah. All right.
You can do that in chat. We'll appreciate that, please. Okay, so I'm having other questions here in the chat box. Say, can you share the feedback link again? Okay, so kindly hold on. Let me share that again, right? Let me share that again. Okay, yes, so I've dropped the feedback from yes, someone is asking here again. Yes, oh, thank you, thank you. So please drop any of your inquiries here in the chat room or call the number that is here. So there's a number highlighted here, or you can drop your inquiries here in the chat room or call the number so we would attend to every inquiry. Yes, so someone is asking again, is there a deadline for the assessment? Exactly, there is. There is. In short, immediately as the link was sent, we expected that everyone already took the assessment. We expected that everyone already took the assessment, and at best 2 days afterwards. So that's the deadline, actually, 2 days after the link has been. So please, in case you've not done that, kindly go back to the link. Go back to the group, the WhatsApp community, and then click on the link and take your assessment. Very, very important. Very, very important. In few days to come, another assessment would also come. So please. Okay, so Mr. Anyaku Josiah is asking a question. He says, what I wanted to ask is, Okay, I think you were the one. Yes, you were the one speaking earlier on. The what I wanted to ask is in respect of last Saturday's class, the materials for the class wasn't uploaded for us within the week as it is usually done on Mondays. Following Saturday's classes, can we have the material? Of course, the material has been uploaded. In short, the slides, the lecture slide has been sent to the WhatsApp community, right? And every material has been uploaded already. So kindly go back and cross checks. It has been uploaded. It has been uploaded. The recording, the slides that was used and everything that has been uploaded. So please take note of that. Take note of that, Mr. Josiah Ayanku. We've done justice to that already. We've done justice to that already. So I don't think anyone has another question. Okay, he said I saw the link but not the slides. All right, no problems. I will revisit that again. I will reshare the slide, but I'm very sure the slide has been shared already. The slide has been sent to the WhatsApp. Are you on the WhatsApp community? Please answer on the chat box. Are you on the WhatsApp community? The CompTIA Tech Plus you doubt that. Oh, oh, oh. It means many of us don't really go through this chat. I've been posting the link to join the WhatsApp. Every classes, it is always done. So please, I'm reposting the link again. Join the community so that we can get any update or any info that we need to. This is the link for the community I just reposted. Please click on the link and join the community so that we don't miss out of any information or any announcement that is passed across to everybody. It is very, very important. So let's join the community so that we can do that. However, before the end of today, I will post the every other details that you need on the community, right? So I will do that before the end of today and also share the slides for the last class that some persons missed already. So I believe that answers the question. I believe that answers the question. So apologies for that. And I'm just checking now and I got to know that I don't think the slides was shared there. I don't think so. So I will do justice to that before the end of today. Apologies for that. Apologies. So, Mr. Anyaku, that will be addressed today already. That will be addressed. Thank you very much. So, at this junction, I want to say a big thank you to everybody that has been part of this meeting. I mean, this class from the beginning up until now. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you to our lecturer, Larry Omosheni. Thank you very much. That was a very powerful delivery. Thank you. And to every one of us, we say thank you. So I want us to take note of every every announcement that was given. And so also, most importantly, to take note of the assessments that we need to do already. So please let's do that, and so that will not affect our certification thereafter, right? Very, very important. So at this junction, I want to say a very pleasant evening or afternoon rather to every one of us, even as we close the class for today, right? So thank you to everybody. And I want to say have a lovely, lovely weekend. See you next week, Saturday. Thank you and God bless.